Y'all know, almost 300 episodes in, and I do all these intros. I think this week it's y'all's turn to do it.
No.
Yes. What's up, guys? God with the game. I have my squad on the LexiCon podcast.
This is just the cold open where you just say something funny and then say, let's get the conversation started.
Let's get the conversation started.
Hello and welcome to LexiCon. It is Maddie along with
Lexi.
Dylan.
Today we're once again diving into the world of Harry Potter. Now, quick disclaimer at the beginning, if you've heard any of our more recent Potter episodes, you know that in this case, we're trusting the art, not the artist. I know a lot of you have very strong feelings towards J.K. Rowling, and we're not necessarily any different, but we still enjoy the books, at least, if not the movies. But that's another subject. If you can't get on with it with us, we understand. Feel free to come back, check in with us next week, go back and check out some of the archives, although, fair warning, about 25% of those contain Harry Potter content as well.
Facts.
And now, having said that, we're getting into it. This is another in our series of deep dives, as we're calling them, into the Harry Potter books. Mm-hmm. We've already done every book once. We've done, what's the first book? It's escaping the Philosopher's Stone. Sorcerer's Stone in the U.S.
I was about to say Philosopher's. I'm like, wait.
We've actually done it 3 times. It actually started when we examined the Through the Trapdoor chapter. We called it Harry Potter and the Obstacle Course.
Something like that.
The Sorcerer's Obstacle Course, something like that. And then it evolved into really breaking down the books, the little minutiae in them, and where it doesn't quite make as much sense as one would think it would, even for a story series about a magical world. We've gone through every book once, but when I was rereading Sorcerer's Stone, I felt like I found a lot of other little tidbits here and there that I didn't mention in the first one, so I decided to go back and do a second deep dive, in that case a third one, through each of the books, and now we're up to book 2, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. If you've heard these before, you know what you're in for. If not, these basically fall into one of 3 categories. Either it's continuity issues that arise because, of course, the story wasn't written, and when I say the story, I mean the 7-book story wasn't all written at one time, so as the story evolved, obviously a few things get somewhat retconned and don't make quite as much sense when viewed against the earlier aspects of the story. Also, there are instances where the story within one book contradicts something that comes up later or earlier in that book as well.
Yes.
And I guess they're just too small for editors to worry about. And another category they fall into generally is when they're character motivations. I think a character does something they wouldn't do throughout most of the series. And sometimes I bring up things that I just want to bring up for my own personal reasons, but you'll see that as we go along.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll check out all the other episodes on this, including the first deep dive into this particular book as companion pieces. And with that being said, we're going to get right into it. I have my notes on my phone. I have a copy of the book here, so we can read along.
Sweet.
Alright, so we begin early in the book, chapter 1, appropriately enough, The Worst Birthday. And we're going to skip up to page 3, and we are going to read about Harry's experience in his first summer after attending Hogwarts. All Harry's spell books, his wand, robes, cauldron, and top-of-the-line Nimbus 2000 broomstick had been locked in a cupboard under the stairs by Uncle Vernon the instant Harry had come home. What did the Dursleys care if Harry lost his place on the house Quidditch team because he hadn't practiced all summer? So, out in the Muggle world, where was Harry supposed to practice Quidditch?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, the Weasleys have a paddock that's surrounded by trees and blocked off from view from the Muggle town, so they can go out and do it as long as they don't fly too high. But Harry, what was he supposed to do? Like, do it in his... Was he supposed to magically expand his basement? I mean, he's not supposed to do magic outside of school, so,
Exactly.
I mean, where was he going to practice
drive
Quidditch?
to the Weasleys?
I mean, that wasn't even an option at that point. He'd never even been to their house, so...
Exactly. Can't even, just try to go somewhere and fly.
Maybe it's in his room he can fly 2 feet up.
So other than, the couple of summers he spent with the Weasleys, I don't know that he ever practiced Quidditch before going back to school.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, this was his first summer off of school, so he didn't know he was going to be able to practice it. I mean, I guess he could have figured it out if he thought about it, but he's like, well, I got to practice, right, to stay on the team, but, again, it doesn't really make much sense.
No.
The Dursleys weren't really keeping him from doing that. The Muggle world in general was keeping him from doing that, and the International Statute of Secrecy, and the reasonable restriction for... The decree for the reasonable restriction of underage sorcery.
Yeah, that.
What he said.
Alright, so moving along then, since we don't seem to have any more thoughts on that. We're going to go to page 7 now, still the same chapter.
Okay.
I don't know why I have this as page... Oh, okay, I guess the setup at the beginning of this book, of course, is the Dursleys are going to have dinner guests, some important clients of Uncle Vernon's, and they're going to hide Harry away, and of course Dobby comes in to mess that up for Harry and whatnot.
Yes.
But And the main point of it is Uncle Vernon, in setting up for dinner, says to Harry, "With any luck, I'll have the deal signed and sealed before the news at 10. We'll be shopping for a vacation home in Majorca this time tomorrow." So, if this had gone through, if Dobby hadn't messed it up, in theory, Vernon would have gotten an influx of cash and they would have had a new vacation home in Majorca. Of course, Dobby does show up and mess it up for Harry. Part of me wonders, though, if someone, maybe Dumbledore, assured that the Dursleys couldn't get a second home because that wouldn't be safe for Harry, because the charm wouldn't be good there. The one that Dumbledore placed on the home when Harry first escaped Voldemort, and he took Harry there, and he used the charm of his mother's blood to seal it.
That's an interesting thought. Interesting theory.
The Harry goes on vacation, dies.
Yeah, right, because, I mean, you know, it's been made clear that there are still supporters of Voldemort out there, if not Voldemort himself, looking for Harry, and he needs someplace safe, which is why Dumbledore took him to his relation's house and cast the charm that made Harry as safe as could be, while he could still call their house home. As long as he was there, he was safe from Voldemort and his supporters.
Yeah.
But a vacation home, would the magic carry over there?
Exactly.
And I mean, even though sometimes it seems like Dumbledore leaves a lot to chance, you know he's at least pulling some strings behind the scenes. So could this be one of Dumbledore's machinations, making sure that the Dursleys can't get that second home?
Possibly.
Maybe.
Again, this is one of those that's not really a mistake. It's just, I mean, this is one of those personal things where I'm thinking, maybe there's something more going on here than anybody realizes.
Yeah.
Alright, well, moving on now. We're going to begin Chapter 2, Dobby's Warning. And the very first page of that chapter is Chapter 12. And this is about... Now this is one thing I take a look at occasionally. It's Marie Grand Prix's illustrations.
Yeah.
Which sometimes contradict stuff in the text. And I mean, I get it, they don't necessarily work in kind, the book's done, and then she does drawings for things, and I guess, you know, the author approved them or whatnot, but sometimes they don't quite match up with what you're reading about, and this is one of those cases. My note specifically says, the illustration in the chapter shows Dobby doffing a hat and wearing shoes, neither of which...
He'd have.
Exactly, I don't know what I wrote down exactly. Neither of which are mentioned in the text, of course, because house elves couldn't wear those things or they'd be free.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's just his toes. Maybe he has really weird toes.
And head?
I
I mean, clearly he's got curls on the shoes, and he's clearly holding a hat. I mean, I guess you could argue that's not a hat. Maybe he just brought a frisbee along.
That's
Harry Potter like a game of frisbee?
That's his little pot holder. He's got a little pot holder and curved toes.
I brought a pot holder along in case I need to cook something for you, Master.
Cool.
Speaking of the text as well, in describing what Dobby is wearing, it says, Harry noticed that it was wearing what looked like an old pillowcase with rips for arm and leg holes.
Yeah.
Why do there need to be rips for leg holes?
That part I don't know.
Pillowcase is open on one side, so you can put the pillow in.
I guess maybe that's
Well, I
why
guess
his
he's
head
using
goes.
that side for his head.
Maybe
Then it would just fall down. I mean, I guess his shoulders.
Well, yeah, I'm
would hold it
saying
up,
because
but
he's got the whole things to put his arms through.
that's got to be really awkward, constantly keeping it up with your shoulders.
They decided to give them the most uncomfortable way to wear pillowcases.
I never thought about it like that, but you're right. There should be rips for arm. I mean, even the illustration shows something more. What I'm thinking with the rips for the
Yeah.
arms and the head, but it clearly says with rips for arm and leg holes.
Yeah. I would have assumed it was the other way, but according
Maybe
to
it's a
that
really
text,
small pillowcase.
I was saying according to that text, they just wanted to make him as uncomfortable as they could,
It's kind of tight.
which would still be uncomfortable.
All right. Speaking of Dobby, and the havoc he wreaks on Harry's summer. Of course, page 19. Then Harry Potter gives Dobby no choice, said the elf sadly. Before Harry could move, Dobby had darted to the bedroom door, pulled it open, and sprinted down the stairs. Mouth dry, stomach lurching, Harry sprang after him, trying not to make a sound. He jumped the last 6 steps, landing cat-like on the hall carpet, looking for Dobby. From the dining room, he heard Uncle Vernon saying, "Tell Petunia that very funny story about those American plumbers, Mr. Mason. She's been dying to hear." Harry ran up the hall into the kitchen and felt his stomach disappear. Aunt Petunia's masterpiece of a pudding, the mountain of cream and sugared violets, was floating up near the ceiling. On top of a cupboard in the corner crouched Dobby. "No," croaked Harry. "Please, they'll kill me. Harry Potter must say he's not going back to school. Dobby, please, say it, sir." "I can't." Dobby gave him a tragic look. "Then Dobby must do it, sir, for Harry Potter's own good." The pudding fell to the floor with a heart-stopping crash. So what exactly was Dobby's plan in crashing the pudding on the floor?
I have no idea.
Did he think Harry was going to get expelled for that? And the Dursleys were going to ground him and not let him go back to Hogwarts? I mean, that is kind of what they tried, but why did Dobby really think that just doing that was going to solve any of his issues?
I have no idea here.
My question is how he skipped the last 6 steps being quiet.
I mean, yeah, that's also a good question.
That's my
How
question.
do you jump 6 steps and land without making
I mean, we don't have any
noise?
steps up here to test it. I guess
I can't jump
Basically.
1 step and be quiet.
I can't even walk.
I mean, you can land.
I mean, maybe
quietly
I
on
can
your feet,
walk on it,
especially if you got a car. If it's a carpet, if it's not wearing
True.
shoes.
I guess. But Dobby's
And Harry's
plan, I
small
don't know.
boy. He's not big.
Unless Dobby was hoping the Ministry or whoever wouldn't realize that it was Dobby doing the magic, and that they'd take action.
Well, the Ministry doesn't realize that, and they do take action. But all they do is give him a warning. He doesn't get expelled for it.
Exactly, but I guess maybe Dobby was hoping they'd do more.
I'm just saying it wasn't a very well thought out plan.
No, it wasn't.
All right, moving along to page 20.
Could a house elf be a Jedi?
Jedis don't exist in the Harry Potter books.
I'm
That
just
we know
saying
of.
theoretically.
Plus, Jedi were from a long time ago. There are no more Jedi.
I mean, you don't know that they could still exist in a galaxy far, far away.
Well, this doesn't take place in a galaxy far, far away, so you just proved my point. Anyway, moving on now. Page 20, same chapter. Uncle Vernon might still have been able to make his deal if it hadn't been for the owl. Aunt Petunia was just passing around a box of after-dinner mints when a huge barn owl swooped through the dining room window, dropped a letter on Mrs. Mason's head, and swooped out again. The letter, of course, is addressed to Dear Mr. Potter. So why did the owl drop the letter on Mrs. Mason's head?
That's a good
Again, here's an instance of an
The
owl
owl's
carrying
dick.
something in its beak or in its claws rather than having it tied to it like we see a lot later in the series. But again, why did the owl deliver it to Mrs. Mason instead of Harry?
Yeah,
owl
you'd
just
think
sits
the
there.
owl wouldn't just drop it. They'd either find hay or would have dropped it someplace like on a table or something. Not with a person. That clearly isn't hay.
There's Dumbledore's meddling some more.
Probably. He's like, take this letter, take it to Harry Potter, but don't actually give it to Harry. Drop it on someone. Just a random someone.
Dumbledore just really working on things behind the scenes.
Yep.
The machinations of
He speaks owl.
Probably.
That's the version of these books I need. I need it, but
I mean,
but
you gotta
Dumbledore's
figure
point
when
of
you look
view.
at all the situations that Harry gets himself in, where it's like that's really fucking dangerous that Dumbledore let him do that, or like why didn't Dumbledore realize something else was going on here? You gotta feel like there's more going on behind the scenes than we really see, and you get a little bit of that in the last book in Snape's Memories, where Dumbledore's talking to Snape about stuff, and he lets you in on a little bit more of it. But
Yeah.
you gotta feel like there's even more that's not really addressed directly. In the
I feel like
That's why I said we need another version of the books where it's still like the same story, but from Dumbledore's point of view, and we're seeing
you want me to hear his thoughts
exactly
too?
he's doing. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or does he have somebody? Or does he always have a confidant? Like he's talking to Fawkes about what's going on. Fawkes, I'd rather pull that off smashingly, don't you think?
We didn't know his thoughts and what he's doing and everything. We'd see what exactly he did behind the scenes.
But sometimes it's a case of not really doing anything, or you wouldn't know
True.
why he's doing it until it's actually revealed. That would be really cool.
I feel like Dumbledore is either the smartest character or the craziest character.
I think
Probably a
he's
bit
both.
both.
Really, is how he's usually represented.
Yeah.
I mean, they clearly talk about him being mad in his introduction to the first book. Mad? He's a genius, greatest wizard of the age. But yes, he is a bit mad. That's what Percy tells Harry. Anyway, I want to jump back to page 19 for 1 second to set something else up. Of course, Dobby crashes the pudding down, and then with a crack like a whip, Dobby vanished, so he's apparating away.
Yes.
Why didn't the Ministry detect the apparitions?
Who knows?
Or apparitions? I'm not
Maybe
exactly
they
sure
did
how
and
that's
just didn't care.
pronounced. I mean, I know there's a lot of instances where we find out that elf magic is different than wizard magic. They can apparate in and out of places that wizards and witches can't.
Like Hogwarts?
Like Hogwarts, like the cave where Voldemort left the Horcrux.
Voldemort has a bunch of house elves attack Hogwarts.
So,
These are all operated.
So we know their magic is different, but they detected the magic Dobby performed to levitate the dessert.
Yeah.
So I wonder why they didn't detect the
I
apparition.
wonder if it's something on
Apparition.
Dobby's end,
Well,
or
cool.
them just not care.
Is it apparition or apparition? Because an apparition is like a ghost.
I don't know.
But then again, it could be because you're kind of ghosting from one place to another. Maybe it should be apparition.
Maybe.
But clearly Dobby just was using Wingardium Leviosa instead of using just elf magic. He's doing Wingardium Leviosa.
But if an elf is doing it, is it not still elf magic?
Well, elf magic is natural elf magic. That's human magic that an elf is using.
But since an elf is doing it, isn't it by nature elf magic?
On a technicality.
No, it's human magic that an elf is using.
Because apparition is the same thing that wizards
No,
and
that's
witches
elf
do.
apparition.
But that's what I'm saying.
It's different
just an elf
apparition.
doing it.
It's a different type of apparition.
Yeah.
It's a completely different type of spell. Okay, the house elves did that. But the humans made Wingardium Leviosa.
Lol.
Did you? Can you say that word?
Wingardium Leviosa.
Wingardium Leviosa. Make the God nice and long.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Lol.
I was pretending to float. Alright, anyway, moving along. We're going to jump up to all the way up to page 21, so the very next page.
Wow.
We're jumping so far
Lots
ahead.
happening within just a few pages.
Derby.
Yeah.
It's all Derby.
Yeah.
Actually, Derby.
It was Dobby all along.
Derby just left.
Here's a case where I'm going to get into like character motivations or pointing out flaws in their ideas.
Yeah.
Because of course we know Uncle Vernon, in response to all this, and at finding out that Harry's not allowed to perform magic outside of school, locks Harry up, fits bars on his window,
Yep.
locks the door and installs a cat flap for Petunia to give him food through the plan
Yeah.
being they're going to keep Harry here and not let him go out even to go to school. But I know that there's a flaw in Vernon's plan.
Uh-huh.
Because if it really means being locked up, Harry may rather risk expulsion to free himself.
True.
I mean, since the alternative would still deprive him of Hogwarts, why not just go ahead and at least be free? Be a free
True.
outcast than a locked up outcast. You wouldn't be an outcast, but you'd be cast out of Hogwarts.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to go there anyway.
Yeah.
So does Harry have a bathroom or?
No, he was allowed out to go to the bathroom.
Also, another flaw is not Dumbledore. Vernon Dursley's Uncle Vernon's plan. He even says to Harry, I'm going to lock you up and you can't magic yourself out because they'll expel you if you do any more magic outside school. But technically, the letter just says that he may be expelled.
True, and we all know that Dumbledore wouldn't let
Says,
it happen.
we would also ask you to remember that any magical activity that risks notice by members of the non-magical community, Muggles, is a serious offense under Section 13 of the International Confederation of Warlock Statute of Secrecy. Okay, wait, that's not it. I'm sorry, that's the previous one. As you know, underage wizards are not permitted to perform spells outside school, and further spell work on your part may lead to expulsion from said school. Decree for the reasonable restriction of underage sorcery, 1875, paragraph C. May not. They may say, look, he was locked up, he had to let himself out. We're not going to expel him, so the threat may not work. He may be setting himself up for failure, which indeed he does, because the Weasleys come and burst Harry out, but...
I mean, the Weasleys
saying.
are probably a lot more noticeable than
Again.
anything Harry could do.
Again, I'm just saying the plan's not necessarily all that well thought out
Yeah.
in the end. Not to say that people don't go off half-cocked, so I'm not saying this is a mistake in the text. I'm just saying when you really break it down, it wasn't really that great of a plan to begin with.
It really wasn't.
Alright, moving along now to Chapter 3, The Burrow, page 24.
Burrow.
One of the coolest places.
Best place.
But Hogwarts.
Yeah, and Hogwarts is dangerous.
Mm.
You can fall through the steps and die.
Of course, this is when the Weasleys come to rescue Harry and they're flying Ford Anglia
Uh-huh.
that Arthur Weasley bewitched to make it fly. But again, the Ministry has no knowledge of this happening.
I feel like the Ministry picks and chooses.
Well,
what they
I'm
pick.
thinking it must be a magical object that's because they can't detect brooms.
Uh-huh.
Remember, they come and get Harry from the Dursleys and take him to number 13 Grimmauld Place, and they use brooms because they're not detectable. Well, no, they do use brooms there, but I'm thinking more in Book 7 when they come to get Harry and take him away for good, and because there's Death Eaters who have infiltrated the Ministry, like Pius Thickness. They have to use those forms of travel that aren't detectable, like thestrals and brooms, and in that case, Sirius's motorcycle, which also has been bewitched to fly as well.
Yeah.
So clearly this sort of magic isn't traceable. I suppose when Arthur put the charm on the car originally, that sort of magic would have shown up. But now it's fine.
It's like one burst of magic when they cast it, but then it's like, look.
But I do question it a bit because Dumbledore does say that magic always leaves traces.
True.
So you think maybe it would be possible to trace it, but I guess they're not that worried about that.
Maybe it's a slim possibility. Or something like that.
Maybe it's such a small trace.
But obviously they don't get in trouble for it except from their mother. So moving on, same chapter, page 27.
Okay.
Did you have more to say about the car?
No.
Be my guest.
I don't.
Okay. Page 27. At this point, Fred and George have picked the lock in Harry's room. And,
Lock picking. Everybody's favorite activity.
gone downstairs and gotten his spell books and his trunk and whatnot from the cupboard in the stairs that used to be Harry's bedroom. They've loaded it up.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, Harry's climbing the car, they're ready to go. But as Harry climbed onto the windowsill, there came a sudden loud screech from behind him, followed immediately by the thunder of Uncle Vernon's voice. "Ruddy Owl! I've forgotten Hedwig!" Harry tore back across the room to the landing. As the landing light clicked on, he snatched up Hedwig's cage, dashed to the window, and passed it out to Ron. He was scrambling back onto the chest of drawers when Uncle Vernon hammered on the unlocked door, and it crashed open. If the door locks from the outside, which it has to do for him to lock Harry in, why was he knocking on it?
That's a really good question.
I mean, I guess he was just going to be like, "Shut that owl up!" But
Maybe.
Harry wasn't going to be able to answer the door. The lock was right there on Vernon's side.
True.
Why would the door lock from the outside anyway?
Uncle Vernon fitted a lock on the outside so we could lock Harry in.
That's what I was
That
going to
makes sense.
say.
Oh.
I believe if I go back, it tells you that Uncle Vernon hired somebody to fit a padlock on.
That makes sense.
It does. I mean, if the goal
Yeah,
is to
he
lock
paid
it
a
in.
man to fit bars on Harry's window. Maybe Vernon put the lock on himself. Let's see. The following morning, he paid a man to fit bars on Harry's window. He himself fitted a cap lock on the bedroom door. Yeah? Huh. I don't know. Guess that's just the way they've had it. I mean, they've locked him in his room before, right? Or they would after this, for sure.
Maybe. I think if it wasn't already like that, then probably either he just put a new one or switched that one or whatever.
He says, "I'm locking you up to fit bars on Harry's window so he couldn't climb out. Cap lock on the bedroom door so small amounts of food could be pushed in 3 times a day. They let Harry out to use the bathroom morning and evening." But yeah, normally there wouldn't be a lock on the outside of the door; it would be on the inside. But I guess at some point they changed it so they could lock Harry up.
Yeah, I guess these are
Or hell, maybe I don't know. Maybe in England you normally have locks on the outside of doors.
Maybe.
I'm locking myself out of this room. Unlocks it. Goes back in.
Cool. Just locked myself up and I literally lost half my thought there.
I'm sorry about that.
Good job.
That went well.
The
say something
conductor
and then
just
it
fell
just-
asleep on the
yeah.
train of memory. Train of thought.
Yeeted.
Not train of memory. Train of thought.
Alright, well, moving along in chapter 3 of the Burrow, we come to page... Actually, this might be the next chapter, because we're going up to page 34. Nope, still the Burrow.
Nice.
This is Harry's first visit to the house, and the time we get to see the first version of the Weasley's clock, which is not the more famous one that has hands for all the family members and words arranged around it like mortal peril, home, traveling, etc., which is the more famous clock that we see multiple times. This clock we only see in this book, and it's a bit different. Page 34. The clock on the wall opposite him had only one hand and no numbers at all. Written around the edge were things like time to make tea, time to feed the chickens, and you're late. In the case of specifically you're late, but even some of the other stuff, is it tuned to just one specific person in the house, or does it change depending on who's looking at it?
I'm not.
Because one person being late might not mean another person is late, and if it's time for one person to do something, it might not be time for another person. So does it depend on who's looking at the clock?
I was
gonna say either that or it's just a more basic clock, and that's just like the general house times.
But you're late for what? You're late to come in.
I'm gonna say you're late to be home or something.
I mean, there's
like that's
You're
probably.
late for everything.
Well, if you're not home, you're not going to see that you're late.
I'm just saying that's probably like evening, late time, when they're supposed to be coming home, coming in, that sort of thing. And if they come in and saying they're late, then they realize they
like,
came home too late, And like feeding the chickens is probably in the morning when you'd go up and tend to the chickens or whatever.
I think it's obvious why we didn't see this clock going forward and why we started to see their other clock much more often.
Yeah.
None of the other clocks doesn't look great as a clock, but
But it's great.
No, it's not really a clock at all.
It's not. This one tells you what time it is for the general house. The other one tells you.
It's more like GPS.
Yeah.
yeah.
Alright, well, anyway, moving along, we are now in chapter 4 at Flourish and Blots when Harry has used the flu powder and choked on the soot while he was trying to say Diagon Alley and wound up in Nocturne Alley.
Makes total sense.
Diagonal.
And after hiding out in the Vanishing Cabinet, it will become very important in the series later on. He escapes from, what's the name of the shop? Borgin and Burke's.
Yes.
And runs into Hagrid.
Hagrid.
This sort of sets up Hagrid to look a bit nefarious before he's arrested later on in the book. Spoilers.
Yeah.
And of course, we find out he's innocent in the end.
Of course, because he's Hagrid.
But
Hagrid can do no wrong.
Precisely.
Hagrid could be Voldemort and I'd still love him.
but anyway, Hagrid says to Harry, "What were you doing down there anyway?" Oh no, actually that's Hagrid. I mean that's Harry. Sorry. Hagrid says, "Yeah, skulking around Nocturne Alley. I don't know, dodgy place, Harry. Don't want no one to see you're down there."
Two
I
Hagrids.
realized that," said Harry, ducking as Hagrid made to brush him off again. "I told you, I was lost. What were you doing down there anyway?" "I was looking for flesh-eating slug repellent," growled Hagrid. "They were ruining the school cabbages." Why would flesh-eating slugs eat cabbages? Don't they eat flesh?
Yeah. It's a funny name.
Do they only eat vegetable flesh? I mean...
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they eat
Well,
both.
did he ever say they're eating them? He said they were wounding.
True. I guess maybe they just live in them or something.
Probably.
Yeah.
They go out to eat meat and then come home and live in cabbages. It's a fair point.
Yeah, either that or they eat both. And so, they're just chilling on the cabbages. Somebody comes by and they're like, "Ooh, flesh."
Flesh. Welcome to Zombie Cast. Ooh, flesh. Damn it, focus! Got a show to do here. Alright, moving on. Still at Flourish and Blots. Although not literally. Page 58. Ron and Harry and Hermione, reunited now, have ducked into a tiny junk shop in Diagon Alley, full of broken wands, lopsided brass scales, and old cloaks covered in potion stains. And they find Percy, who is deeply immersed in a small and deeply boring book called Prefects Who Gained Power. I do wonder a bit about this book, because Tom Riddle was a prefect. I wonder if he's mentioned in that book.
I would hope he is.
Well, I assume that he's not in that book, since Dumbledore says few people knew that Tom Riddle became Voldemort. And Tom Riddle, in name, didn't really do much after Hogwarts. So I assume he's probably not in the book, but it is interesting to think that he is.
Yeah.
I also wondered about Lupin. He was a school prefect.
Nice.
But again, he didn't really go on
Lupin's
to any
pretty
great
cool.
power.
Until,
He's, of course, struggled for employment, apparently, because of werewolf discrimination.
I was going to say, nothing really happened with them until this series.
Wonder if Lucius is in there. He was also a prefect.
He might be.
A lot of people prefect.
He didn't exactly gain power, though. He just got it because his family's rich. But
Yeah,
I don't know
but
I don't
maybe
know
that's how
we
you
don't-
get into books.
We don't know the text of the book, so...
We also don't know how old that book is.
That's also a fair point.
Could be
Like, is this
40-year-old
very
book.
recent?
Could have been just released that day.
I-
Who knows?
Oh, I doubt it since it's in, like, a second-hand store.
Exactly. So I'm saying, like, how recent is this? Or does it go to before?
Well, I mean, Lucius would have been out of school for a while.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Well, that book could be like 30 years old.
how old would he be in the
All those
series?
cases.
Lucius, he's older than Harry's parents because he's in like 6th or 7th year by the time they come to Hogwarts.
Oh, man.
He's a prefect, so he's at least 5th year, so he's at least 5 years older than them.
I'd like to say I was trying to type
Or
his name
4 years
into
older than
Google.
them.
It does not have an O in it.
No, it doesn't. He's not luscious. Luscious Malfoy.
Oh, God.
You reckon there's fan art of that?
Probably.
Let's find out everything.
I mean, Harry Potter is pretty popular, so yeah, it's got quite
You'll
a
probably
bit.
find Harry writing one of the poems from My Little Pony about eating a Snickers.
Alright, well anyway, moving along, still at Flourish and Blots, literally there now, where Malfoy and Arthur Weasley have a bit of a skirmish between them.
Yeah.
And afterwards, Hagrid says, "You should have ignored him, Arthur," said Hagrid, almost lifting Mr. Weasley off his feet as he straightened his robes. "Rotten to their core, the whole family, everyone knows that. No Malfoy's worth listening to. Bad blood, that's what it is." I wonder if that's a little hypocritical of Hagrid to say they have bad blood when he, defends not using, or, attacks people for using the word mudblood, says you shouldn't use that, dirty blood, that's a foul thing to say about somebody, but he's going to sit there and say the Malfoys have bad blood.
Well, you're not saying they have dirty blood.
I do think, too, that might be a British expression, because I know Aunt Marge uses it later on. I mean, in a derogatory way toward Harry's family, but still, it might just be a general British expression and not really in line with mudblood.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that he has an issue with the word mudblood, but has no problem saying that somebody has bad
It
blood.
does seem very interesting just on the surface like that.
If you're going to sing loud enough for everybody to hear.
No.
Did you bring enough songs for the whole class?
No.
then you don't get songs.
I
on the
bought
bus.
Snickers of songs. A Snickers.
If you don't have
size
enough
song.
Snickers for the whole class, you don't get a Snickers.
I should have bought a Snickers at the grocery store today.
Frick
Wait,
you, I
is a single
spent my
bar a
money on
Snicker?
Snicker.
No, it says Snickers on the bar, right? So it's
Yeah.
a Snickers bar.
Yes.
And if you have multiple, you'd have Snickers bars.
Look,
Yeah.
I saved up my allowance for the Snickers. I'm gonna eat the Snickers. Okay, you can't tell me.
Alright, anyway, right after this incident, we find a subdued group that headed back to the fireside in the Leaky Cauldron, where Harry the Weasleys and all their shopping would be traveling back to the Burrow using flue powder. They said goodbye to the Grangers, who were leaving the pub for the Muggle Street on the other side. Mr. Weasley started to ask them how bus stops worked, but stopped quickly at the look on Mrs. Weasley's face. I get that he lives in a somewhat different world than the Muggles, but can you really not figure out how a bus stop works? It's not any different
You
than like
would
trains.
You
think
said the
he'd
bus
know
stop.
that.
You wait for the bus.
I mean,
It
end.
does
Not exactly
sound, it even
the bus
sounds
stops there.
self-explanatory.
ooh, how do bus stops work? Well, the bus stops there.
Really?
How did that? I feel like Paddington.
I was gonna say that sounds
The
so
bus
much
stops
like
there?
Paddington.
Oh, Mrs. Brown, this is so wonderful. They are the Browns, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Paddington and Arthur Weasley are just the
Of
same
all the
person.
things you could have asked. Yeah,
Jesus
bus
Christ,
stop.
why does that not exist? I need those two together.
They're just the same person.
Come on, Paddington and
Yes.
Arthur hang out for
Oh,
a day.
Don't ask about, like,
for a day.
TVs, video games, any of that. No, buses.
Oh, he does have an
And
interest in all
bus
that. So I'm just saying in
Oh,
this one
yeah.
instance, they're talking about a bus stop Wednesday. She's there. I say. He has to. He wonders. How does that work? They were the Hollies, then they became Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
Next we
Sometimes
got-
just Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Sometimes just, and then Graham Nash and David Crosby went off together. How does that all work?
Next, he's gonna ask how stops.
And how
I
does Buffalo
don't
Springfield
understand.
factor into it?
What is he questioning about bus stops, though?
No, that's what
I mean,
I'm saying.
they know how trains work.
Exactly, that's
so
what I
they know,
said.
like...
Trains.
And they have the night bus.
Yeah, and so like he'd
the
understand
night bus
this
stops.
is where it stops.
Yeah.
There's a schedule, so you know when and when everything. You know, you right here, you put it when it stops. You get off at the stop you need.
But next, he's gonna ask how stop signs work.
Like,
Anyway, moving along into chapter. Oh, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say just real quick. I managed to for Lucius Malfoy. He doesn't have an exact birth date given. This just says sometime between September 9th, 1953, and September 8th, 1954.
Yeah, so he's several years old. And
So what would have been 11
Lily and
years
James.
after?
Lily and James, I'm pretty sure, were born in '60, so that puts him 6 years older than them and Snape,
Yeah,
give or take.
yeah.
I'm sorry. So what did you ask me?
I was saying so 11 years after
This book
that
starts
would
in
be
'92. 11 years after that would be.
after when he was born. So he'd be
54?
starting in like
He'd be starting in like 65.
Yeah.
64, 65, 66, depending on exactly when his birthday falls.
nice. When was Hagrid's years? That was
He was, well, 50 years before this.
yeah.
I can't remember if it's the first half of the school year or the second. 50 years before this, he was in his third year at Hogwarts.
I just accidentally typed Hogwarts instead of Hagrid.
Yeah, so this is 92, so in 42 he would have been there for 3 years, so he would have started in like 39.
Hagrid's old.
He's younger than Voldemort, though, because Voldemort was in his 5th year by then.
These people are old.
Younger than Dumbledore?
How old is Dumbledore?
Isn't he like 120 when he died?
Younger than Yoda.
He's over 100 at this point.
He's younger than Yoda.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, this says that Hagrid started at Hogwarts in 40.
And Yoda is younger than the universe.
Oh my gosh, hold on. How old was...
Did he get expelled in his second year?
No, he's third year.
Okay, so it is the second half. Yeah, that's right, because it happens in the second half of the year. Because, of course, you have that bend, because school years don't run the same as the calendar year. They start toward the end of it and then loop around, so it's in, like, the second part of the school year.
Apparently, according to this one thing that I'm looking at, the author originally said that he was about 150 when he died, but according to Pottimer, he was 115 when he was killed.
So he's still over 100 at this point.
Yes. He's been around for a minute. What year did he
I'm still
die?
questioning that Hagrid starting in 40, though, because we know the chamber was 50 years before this. So
Yeah.
we know the chamber was open in 42.
Okay.
And we know that's the year that Hagrid's expelled.
Yeah.
Oh, but then again, it could be, 40, 41, 42. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Never mind.
Okay.
That's my bad. I wasn't thinking You got to
The
count.
way
You got to
they-
count the year, yeah, because he would have started in 40. I just subtracted 3 from 42, but I got to count 42 as well. So that's my bad.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Wait, what year was Half-Blood Prince? Dumbledore's death.
it's the 6th year
specifically.
for Harry. It started in 1996. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 96,
Is that the year that Dumbledore died?
97.
97. Okay, so
So it would have
1997.
been toward the end of the school year.
He was born in 1882.
Okay.
Dumbledore was alive in the 1800s, guys.
Yeah, we knew that already.
He actually, oh my, I'm sorry.
And Yoda.
I'm
was alive
shocked
long
at how
before
old
that.
some of these characters are.
Can we move along?
Yes.
Okay. Chapter 5, The Whomping Willow. Pages 73 and 74. Of course, Harry and Ron were blocked from getting through the barrier by Dobby's spell. So, in a fit of genius, they decided to steal Ron's parents' car and fly it to Hogwarts as if they had no other way to get there.
Most brilliant plan.
Of course, they
Dobby is OP.
wind up crashing it, but before that, we have, see, this says 73, 74. This is still when Ron and Harry are flying, but they're getting closer to Hogwarts. Yeah, I mean, this is actually when they're coming in for a landing. They were over the lake.
Okay.
Maybe I should step back just a bit. I want to make sure I give you the full picture here. Okay, so again, they're coming up on Hogwarts. And speaking of the car, the engine groaned. Narrow jets of steam were issuing from under the hood. Harry found himself gripping the edges of his seat very hard as they flew toward the lake. The car gave a nasty wobble. Glancing out of his window, Harry saw the smooth, black, glassy surface of the water a mile below. Ron's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The car wobbled again. "Come on," Ron muttered. They were over the lake. The castle was right ahead. Ron put his foot down. There was a loud clunk, a splutter, and the engine died completely. "Uh-oh," said Ron into the silence. The nose of the car dropped. They were falling, gathering speed, heading straight for the solid castle wall. Now, what I want to know is if the car flies by magic, which it obviously does, why does it matter if the engine's running or not?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Did he just bewitch the engine somehow and it relies on it? I did think maybe the spell relies on the wheels turning, which
Yeah.
you'd need the engine to be running to cause them to turn.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. But in general, I would think the magic would overrule the engine and the electronics of the car.
Yeah.
I agree. Can you Wingardium Leviosa a car while you're in it?
Arthur doesn't care about.
Yeah, because Harry does it to the sidecar, when they're escaping in Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
When he and Hagrid are going out, and at one point the sidecar becomes separated from the motorcycle because they use the dragon fire to accelerate, and Harry's
Yeah.
just floating there, and he uses Wingardium Leviosa to hold himself up. But of course, he can't steer or move anywhere. So yeah, you probably could. I mean, maybe it'd be harder to do it on a bigger object, and of course these
Maybe.
are just 2 second-year
Yeah.
wizards at Hogwarts. They're probably not up for the task, and
I was
maybe.
thinking because they're kind of panicking.
But again, even if you did, you'd just be floating. You wouldn't go anywhere. You still have to get down at some point.
But that means Arthur still needs to refill on gas with the car
Yeah.
to fly around.
Yeah, so I'm just not sure. I doubt it was an electric car. Back
So
in
he
the
does. He
90s.
Does he
doesn't
even care about
understand
the
buses,
planet?
but he knows how to put gas. in
Does he
the
even
car.
care about the planet? My gosh.
Anyway, moving on. Ron let go of the steering wheel. This is on page 74 still same chapter. Ron let go of the steering wheel completely and pulled his wand out of his back pocket. So Ron was just sitting on his wand the whole time.
Apparently.
That had to be uncomfortable.
I would assume so.
That's why I hate back pockets.
Matt, I wouldn't have liked that. He warns Harry about keeping his wand in his back pocket in Order of the Phoenix. He says, he knows plenty of good wizards that have blown off a butt cheek, lost a buttocks because they kept their wand in their back pocket. Which does beg the question: how many wizards are walking around in jeans or trousers of any kind that have pockets when they usually wear robes?
I was gonna
Never
say.
use back pockets ever.
I thought they
Matt,
did
I
the
calls it
whole
elementary
road
wand
thing.
safety. Here's a preview from when we do Order of the Phoenix again, because I don't think I brought that up, but
I don't know.
this will come up.
Okay.
This will be on the test.
Lol. We all love a good Harry Potter test.
I don't think anyone likes a test.
Okay, of course, Ron and Harry end up crashing the car into the Whomping Willow, which is the first time we're introduced to it.
Yes.
And the car gets beaten up on for a minute and gets out of the tree, ejects Ron and Harry and Hedwig, and goes rolling off into the forest to become sentient. But it seems like they're surprised when they start getting beaten up by the tree. Ron panted, "Well done. That was close, Caw." Or actually he panted, "That Was close. Well done, Caw. The car, however, had reached the... that's after they got out of the tree, I want to say.
What's your favorite sentient car?
Kit from Knight Rider, maybe?
Okay.
Lightning McQueen.
Not sure that he's really sentient, though.
I was gonna go Herbie.
Probably doesn't even talk.
Do they have to talk to be sentient?
Probably not. Anyway.
I was gonna say, does this car suddenly talk?
The car is sitting in the tree, and at that very moment, something hit his side of the car with the force of a charging bull, sending him lurching sideways into Ron, just as an equally heavy blow hit the roof. What happened? Ron gasped, staring through the windshield, and Harry looked around just in time to see a branch as thick as a python smash into it. The tree they had hit was attacking them. Its trunk was bent almost double, and its gnarled boughs were pummeling every inch of the car it could reach.
Uh-huh.
So, then they get out, etc., as they say, and Ron had to say, "Can you believe our luck?" Ron said miserably, bending down to pick up Scabbers. "Of all the trees we could have hit, we had to get one that hits back." He seemed somewhat unfamiliar with the Whomping Willow, which of course wasn't invented until this book, more than likely. It certainly wasn't mentioned in the first book.
But you think
But I'm
Ron
saying they would know about it at this point. Even if some of his brothers hadn't told him about it, you would think they would have come across it at some point in Hogwarts, even been warned against going near it, because Lupin says that, of course, the tree was planted because of Lupin. When Lupin finally tells Harry about it, he says, a boy named Davy Gudgeon, something like that, almost lost an eye trying to get close enough to the tree.
Yeah.
And then they were forbidden to go near it after that. So you would think that would be one of the warnings they get all the time. Don't go near the Whomping Willow, lest you want to lose an eye.
Yes, that.
Cut down.
And I was gonna say.
Well, it still guards the secret tunnel, so you can't just...
Ron, they cover up the
Well, why
secret
cut
tunnel?
it down anyway? Why tear up a perfectly good...
Exactly.
Because they're trying to kill kids.
And it's
Only if they get
obviously
too close to it.
too. Yeah, it's like, this
Look,
is
at
my space.
the Wizarding World is cutthroat, man. You don't get any easy rides in the Wizarding World.
Look, if somebody enters your personal space...
An attacking tree is not something they're going to bat an eyelash at in the Wizarding World.
Imagine
That's
being
true.
a kid who looked at Hogwarts. That'd be the worst.
I guess none of the teachers, at least in Harry's years, have any children. Or if they do, they're never mentioned.
I think Snape has a kid somewhere.
I know later on, of course, Neville...
mini
I know
Snape.
later on Neville becomes herbology professor, and is it Susan or Hannah that becomes the matron that he's married to? I know it's one of the Hufflepuff girls. I can't remember if it's Susan. It's either Susan Bones or Hannah Abbott. And she takes over from Madame Pomfrey as the matron, and they're married, but we never hear about them having kids one way or the other.
Maybe they can't have kids. Maybe that's one of the things to become a teacher.
Maybe.
Can't have
Hogwarts
kids.
professors not allowed to have kids.
Like I said, there's no instance of anybody having kids as a Hogwarts professor.
That's why Hermione and them don't go on to become professors at all.
Well, none of them ever express any desire to either.
No. Oh, but I was trying to look up multiple things. Let's see.
What are you looking up? Are you looking up more dates and stuff?
Various things.
Because I want to move along with my notes.
You can go.
I mean, I just want to point out, we're on page
with the
3
Whomping Willow.
of 7.
Okay.
And we're at the top of page 3, and we've been doing this for 50 minutes already.
Can I date the Whomping Willow?
No.
Why? It's sentient.
Okay, I lied. We're in the middle of the page, but still. Alright, so page 80. I believe we're going to change chapters at this point. Nope, still in the Whomping Willow chapter. Snape, of course, has found Ron and Harry and taken them to his office and, is gleeful at the idea that they're probably going to be expelled, and he's gone to get McGonagall and or Dumbledore. And Harry and Ron are alone in the office, and then 10 minutes later Snape returned, and sure enough it was Professor McGonagall who accompanied him. Harry had seen Professor McGonagall angry on several occasions, but either he had forgotten just how thin her mouth could go, or he had never seen her this angry before. She raised her wand the moment she entered. Harry and Ron both flinched, but she merely pointed it at the empty fireplace, where flames suddenly erupted. So I'm just wondering, is it acceptable in the Wizarding World to light a fire in someone else's office? Or is it just because she's deputy headmistress that she can get away with it and Snape's not going to say anything? I'm going to be like, Minerva, this is my office. Why are you lighting fires in here? Why do you suddenly sound Australian, Snape? I'm sorry. I apologize. Look, I apologize for the accents.
Suffodude Snape.
Like, for sure, McGonagall, why you gotta light fires in my office? Just trying to intimidate the kids and like it dark and cold.
Potter.
Anyway, just a little bit.
Obviously.
My next note is just more examples of owls carrying things in their beak or their claws rather than having it tied on.
Yeah.
Probably just move along on that.
It's a recent development in the Wizarding World.
What, surfing?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Tying things on
Skipping ahead a bit now into chapter 7, Mudbloods and Murmurs, page 104. Kind of surprising that teachers would let Ron continue with lessons with a malfunctioning wand.
Yeah, don't they have like a
And I just want to point out, this is my next note here. The wizard world is really cutthroat.
Nice.
Because again, you've got a student at a clear disadvantage, can't do half the fucking lessons, probably hurting other students, and he raised a welt on Flitwick's head with his malfunctioning wand.
Could probably blow himself off.
Eventually causes one teacher to lose his memory because it backfires. To be fair, the teacher was trying to wipe his memory, but all I'm saying is, you think maybe they just said, look, you gotta have a functioning wand. Maybe even we can use that fund here at Hogwarts for underprivileged students, but we gotta get you a functioning wand.
One of the papers in the envelope with the letter is just a slip that the parents have to sign acknowledging a lot of stuff's gonna happen at Hogwarts.
Yes, it is specific.
It's the Wizarding World. It's dangerous. We all know what's up.
It's like, you get to learn magic, but you have the chance of dying every day.
The specific point I was bringing up is Ron's wand was still malfunctioning, surpassing itself on Friday morning by shooting out of Ron's hand in charms and hitting tiny old Professor Flitwick squarely between the eyes, creating a large, throbbing green boil where it had struck. That's on page 104 at the very beginning of chapter 7. So yeah, I think they would have insisted that he get a new wand, but I say, the Wizarding World's cutthroat, baby. And you're on your own in the Wizarding World.
Why, it's a Dumbledore.
Anyway, moving along in chapter 7,
doesn't
page
care.
115. They're talking about Professor Lockhart and how they're kind of surprised Dumbledore would hire him. And actually Hermione's defending him. She says, I think you're being a bit unfair. Professor Dumbledore obviously thought he was the best man for the job. He was the only man for the job, said Hagrid, offering them a plate of treacle fudge while Ron coughed squelchily into his basin. And I mean the only one. Getting very difficult to find anyone for the dark arts job. People aren't too keen to take it on, see? They're starting to think it's jinxed. No one's lasted long for a while now. Supposedly there hadn't been a defense against the dark arts teacher who lasted more than a year since Dumbledore refused the job to Tom Riddle.
Yeah.
It's never completely confirmed, but that's what we find out later on in Dumbledore's memories in Book 6. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is, was Lupin not available? He came along just fine the next year to be defense against the dark arts teacher.
He was not available this year.
If they're having such trouble finding a professor, seems like Lupin would have been there.
Possibly.
My other thought, though, is that does this mean that the Wolfsbane potion, which Lupin says in Book 3 is a recent discovery and isn't mentioned in conjunction with werewolves in this book, when Professor Lockhart brings them up, was it discovered around this time?
Probably.
After Lockhart got the job, so was it, when he says recent, it's really recent, like within the last few months.
Yeah. Maybe that's why he's not really available at the moment.
And that's what I'm saying, that's an interesting possibility. Alright, moving on, I believe we're going to stay in the same chapter. Yes, just a couple pages later, page 117, Hagrid shows the kids the giant pumpkins he's been growing in his backyard.
Yes.
And Hagrid says, well, I've been giving them, a bit of help. Harry noticed Hagrid's flowery pink umbrella leaning against the back wall of the cabin. Harry had had reason to believe before now that this umbrella was not all it looked. In fact, he had the strong impression that Hagrid's old school wand was concealed inside it. Now, the point I'm getting at here is, Hagrid is able to channel his magic through his broken wand and his umbrella. Couldn't Ron do something like that? Or Harry, when the Phoenix wand breaks in Book 7, couldn't they, fasten it to tie it to a stick or something?
Yeah.
I mean, Hagrid's he's got magic, but I don't think he's a super strong magical wizard. We know that a very powerful wizard like Dumbledore could probably do more without a wand than a weaker wizard like Crabbe or Goyle could do with a wand. So you can pretty much channel your magic through anything. So couldn't Harry and Ron find some kind of a substitute, or again, rig up their wand to something else?
Yeah, I mean, later on, definitely, maybe it's a little different in this one, just because the young and still learning and whatnot.
I bet.
But I think in theory,
but still,
they could do
your magical
something.
prowess is not based solely on knowledge. It's also just your innate magical power.
So the wand's pretty much the
mean,
the wands are just an object they can... they're a magical object. They have a magical core. They help focus your magic and channel it and maybe strengthen it.
So like that, pretty much the Mjolnir.
I guess. Does Thor channel his power through Mjolnir?
At least for a little while.
Like, it's Mjolnir, lightning. Forget this, I got my own lightning.
Yeah. But they can't just summon it and other people could pick it up and whatnot.
Yeah.
Continuing on this thought, I also want to say, why couldn't a literally broken in half wand work? wands come in different sizes. We've heard of wands anywhere from 7 inches to 16 inches, and Hagrid's was 16 inches, so you break it in half. That's 8 inches of wand each. That's still longer than the shortest wand we've seen.
Yeah.
So, again, why couldn't those two halves just work as 2 wands then? It's not, he'd only had it for like 3 years at that point. It's not like, I know Harry, his wand imbibes a lot of magic from Harry and his rivalry with Voldemort. It builds itself up throughout the years, and apparently wands can do that, but Hagrid only had it a couple years. It's not like it had that much time and he'd lose that much. So, I mean, you would still think, hey, instead of 1 wand, I've got 2 wands now.
Dual wielding.
Maybe they don't work as well or something, but he's got 2 wands.
But why wouldn't it though? Why? I mean, his is so big. Once you break it in half, it's still as big. I mean, I know you're severing the core to a degree, but are you telling me that every phoenix tail feather, every dragon heartstring, every unicorn hair is used completely whole without any damage to it?
No,
at all?
I think it would still pretty much work.
That's all I'm
Like,
saying.
it would still work perfectly fine as a regular wand. I'm saying specifically for him, maybe its quality lowers a little bit, but not to the point that it's unusable or anything.
Yeah, which could explain somewhat how he can still channel magic through it. But again, you think Ron with just the tip of it being broken off would still work.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
definitely.
you worry about later on.
No,
when
the tip is very important.
When Harry's wand is broken in half, but still just a little bit of phoenix feather holding it together, I mean,
Yeah.
just have some questions about how wands exactly work.
Is there actually a spell that can make it a wizard? Only you could pick up something?
We've never heard of one, but that doesn't mean one couldn't exist.
Because if so, a wizard could make a hammer that only you can pick up, and it's like, Accio hammer! Then they cast like lightning spells.
Odin was a wizard.
I'm just saying, a wizard could theoretically be the...
Best the cosplay. Used magic.
Alright, well, moving along now. We're in Chapter 8, The Death Day Party. And this is a very pivotal moment in the series, even though you don't realize it at the time, when Harry comes in from Quidditch practice and Filch, with a cold, being cruelly forced to clean up the castle without magic, complains about Harry tracking Mud and takes him down to his office. And Harry had just
Fair.
been speaking to Nearly Headless Nick, and to get Harry out of trouble, Nearly Headless Nick persuades Peeves, the poltergeist, to cause a commotion to attract Filch away and get Harry out of trouble. And what Peeves does is break a vanishing cabinet.
Uh-huh.
The vanishing cabinet that is the mate to the one in Borgin and Burke's that Draco will mend and use to bring Death Eaters into the school and bring about the death of Dumbledore in Book 6.
Nice.
But of course, we don't know any of that at this point. We just know he smashed a vanishing cabinet.
Yes.
My point is, though, it's page 128 and 129. We have Filch has gone to investigate the noise, leaving Harry in his office, and he comes back and... That vanishing cabinet was extremely valuable, he was saying gleefully to Mrs. Norris. We'll have Peeves out this time, my sweet. And of course, the next page, Nick points out that, I persuaded Peeves to crash it right over Filch's office. Thought it might distract him. My point is, if it was that valuable, why didn't Dumbledore or one of the other teachers mend it right away?
Right.
Instead of just throwing it in the fucking room a requirement. And like, you don't need to be bothered with that, just get it out of here. Apparently it wasn't that valuable, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't
monetarily
think
it was
it
valuable,
was.
but certainly to the school it didn't mean that much. They just shut it away for 4 years.
It was the equivalent of Filch.
Another question I have
You're
about...
valuable enough to be here.
Another
That's
question I
it.
have about wizards. Do you think there are any wizards that went on to become magicians?
Probably.
Yeah, I've
Just
thought of that
solely
before.
using the magic?
Well, I mean, like Fred and George have Muggle magic tricks in their gift shop, in Wizards, in Weasley's Wizarding Wheezes. Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Anyway, moving on. Page 131. By the time Halloween arrived, Harry was regretting his rash promise to go to the Death Day party. The rest of the school was happily anticipating the Halloween feast. The Great Hall had been decorated with the usual live bats. Hagrid's vast pumpkins had been carved into lanterns large enough for 3 men to sit in, and there were rumors that Dumbledore had booked a troupe of dancing skeletons for the entertainment.
Skeletons.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Why would people think that Dumbledore had hired entertainment for the feast? I mean, yeah, the ghosts do some formation gliding one year. I think it's the 3rd year. But other than that, and of course the ball in year 4, which is something totally different, we don't see Dumbledore hire anyone for
And Dumbledore
feasts.
hired the Beatles.
Unless he really did hire the dancing skeletons, of course. But we don't see the feast this year because they go to the Death Day party. So maybe there are dancing skeletons here. We
Maybe.
just don't see them. And the question is, are those dancing skeletons named Sans and Papyrus?
Well,
But yeah,
those dancing skeletons are an old band.
back in the 60s or whatever, Dumbledore was just like, oh, y'all want some live music? We're gonna book the Beatles.
Instead of the Beatles, it's the Brittles. That's the skeletons.
Anyway, speaking of the Death Day Party, page 136 of still in Chapter 8, the Death Day Party. Nearly Headless Nick has the band stop and he wants to get up and give his speech. My late lamented lords, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great sorrow, but nobody heard much more. Sir Patrick and the rest of the Headless Hunt, who seemed like real dicks, had just started a game of head hockey and the crowd were turning to watch. Nearly Headless Nick tried vainly to recapture his audience, but gave up as Sir Patrick's head went sailing past him to loud cheers. Pretty fucking rude not to let the man give a speech at his own Death Day party.
Yeah.
The Headless Hunt are just dicks. Don't know if they have dicks, but no heads.
Do
but
ghosts have
big
dicks?
They have
I mean,
ghost
probably.
dicks. The question is, did they have a dick when they died?
I mean, probably?
If they had a dick when they died, then yeah, they've got a ghost dick.
Anyway, moving
Do you
along.
think ghosts have sex?
Page
I
140.
don't want to think about this.
I do, but not right now. Okay? I'm just trying to get through this episode.
Look, I have questions, okay?
Chapter 9, The Writing on the Wall. Page 140. This is when Harry has stumbled upon the writing on the wall that's been done in paint or rooster blood or whatever, and Mrs. Norris has been hung up on a nail after being petrified, etc., etc. Argus comes up. What's going on here? What's going on? Attracted no doubt by Malfoy's shout, Argus Filch came shouldering his way through the crowd. Then he saw Mrs. Norris and fell back, clutching his face in horror. But we always hear about this special connection that he seems to have with Mrs. Norris. In fact, I think on 125, it's specifically mentioned. Drawn to the spot by the mysterious power that seemed to connect him with his foul cat, Argus Filch burst suddenly through a tapestry to Harry's right. So if he has such a connection, why didn't he sense something was wrong with Mrs. Norris before he found her? I mean, maybe he did, and he's like, what's going on here, but doesn't real. But if he's drawn to her normally to catch students doing
the special
stuff,
connection?
that's the
Is
most
it
we ever
forced bond?
get. I know, right? We just see that he's sort of drawn to where she is and can catch rule breakers because of that, but
It's just the.
I just felt like he would have
dude
known a
loves
little
his
more of what
pet.
was going on.
No, doesn't know his pet is actually an animag.
I think just a pet that, close to normal stuff. It's like when you go anywhere, your cat just suddenly appears.
I think it'd be a hard times better if they were a dog.
You know, I'm a
The
cat
man's
person.
best friend is a dog.
You said that right in front of your cat.
I'm talking about you.
Anyway, same chapter, next page. Dumbledore takes Mrs. Norris, and along with Snape and McGonagall and Harry, Ron, and Hermione, goes to Lockhart's office, which he's offered as to be used for dealing with the situation. And Filch comes along as well, of course. So they're all in Lockhart's office, or they all come into Lockhart's office. And as they entered the darkened office, there was a flurry of movement across the walls. Harry saw several of the Lockharts in the pictures dodging out of sight, their hair in rollers. So, we know there's a bit of magic to wizards' photographs
Yes.
and wizarding photography. So people in wizarding photos can style their hair. I would assume
guess.
their hair is pretty much like however they were photographed. And if that's the case, then was Lockhart photographed in rollers, which seems very unlikely.
Yeah.
Or did he include rollers in the background of his photo so his photographic image could use them later on?
I was gonna say maybe they can't actually style different style hair, but yes, somehow his paintings they have access to colors. It
There's
doesn't
a guy
have to
from
do
another
anything.
painting.
They just put it in for the sake of putting it in. When they take it out, it's the same style still.
They just got for
Still
another
seems
painting.
odd. I mean, it's not a painting, it's a photograph.
True.
There's a photograph
Okay,
of a bunch of
photographs are back
colors.
to
I don't think photographs can go into paintings, but maybe. I'm not sure we have... Teddy, I know we insulted you, but you don't have to mess up the show. We didn't do it.
But there's a photograph of a bunch of colors 5 feet to the right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
When did that
Can
come?
photographs move into other photographs?
I'd assume so, if paintings can move into other paintings.
Yeah, but paintings and photographs aren't the same thing.
That's
They're
very
similar.
true. Similar, but not the same.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So, were there just rollers in the background of the photograph? or
I mean,
something?
photographs are pretty much paintings.
Except they're completely not.
The digital.
They're fucking...
I almost said the digital paintings, but I don't want that to be confused with somebody who actually digitally paints. The digital paintings that this thing that captures light and whatnot managed to put together and
They're
print
pretty
out.
much just a painting that camera painted.
Mm-hmm.
The cameras are pretty much painted.
Yep.
And
That's how magic cameras work.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving along now. Chapter 9, The Writing on the Wall. Which, was that where we were already?
Maybe.
Yeah, we'd already entered this chapter. But we're staying in it now, but moving on to page 146. Harry had seen Filch scrubbing the message on the wall with Mrs. Scour's all-purpose magical mess remover, but to no effect. The words still gleamed as brightly as ever on the stone. Just wonder why they couldn't scrub it off, or why one of the teachers weren't able to magic it off.
They probably could.
We have heard of permanent sticking charms on paintings and whatnot, and photographs that made it where you couldn't remove them, but we've never heard of a permanent charm on paint or blood or whatever this happens to be. Part of me wants to say that Ginny daubed it in Rooster's blood, but maybe she does paint it. Maybe I'm mixing that up with something else.
Uh-huh.
Because I did have a note. I thought it was just blood, and I scratched it out, so I guess it is paint. But again, I mean, I know she's being possessed by Voldemort at that point, so she could perhaps use some of his powers that she would normally be able to, but that seems somewhat advanced magic, and again, not magic we ever hear about anywhere else.
Yeah.
What happens if you destroy a painting in the Wizarding World?
It's murder.
You were painted,
I mean,
you died,
theoretically.
the painting was killed.
Anyway, next page, 147. Hermione emerged from between the bookshelves there in the library. She looked irritable and at last seemed ready to talk to Harry and Ron. All the copies of Hogwarts History have been taken out, she said, sitting down next to Harry and Ron, and there's a 2-week waiting list. I wish I hadn't left my copy at home, but I couldn't fit it in my trunk with all the Lockhart books. Why couldn't she just write home for it and get her copy sent to her?
I mean, that's
I have a feeling it would take. I have a feeling it would take way less than 2 weeks to get it.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
But, also,
And it's inconvenient that she left behind the book that she needs.
and I'm sitting here like she left behind the history book for Lockhart books. That's what I'm questioning personally.
Yeah. It's like the history.
Well, I mean, the Lockhart's books were required books for this year. She wasn't bringing them because she personally wanted them. I mean, she may have because she seems somewhat infatuated with Lockhart.
Yes.
But it was that was their required book list for Defense and Dark Arts for the whole Lockhart collection.
True.
Maybe not his biography, but at least all the other books.
Also,
Probably his biography
could
too,
she
though,
not
since he
just
tested him on
carry
it.
the history book?
Well, I mean,
You're saying it didn't fit in
couldn't
the
she
trunk.
use some magic to? I guess she couldn't technically expand the thing.
Yeah.
But still,
And that would have been outside of school.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
She could wait until she was in school.
But then it wouldn't do her any good.
She could carry it until she was in school. And they expanded the thing,
Right,
and that's when the state expanded.
Until she was on the train.
Moving along in this chapter, we're going to get to one of the most egregious errors in this book, for my money. On page 155, Hermione says, "Oh, Ron, there won't be anyone in there," said Hermione, standing up and coming over. "That's Moaning Myrtle's place. Come on, let's have a look." Now, okay, let me. Maybe I should back up just a little bit to make my point here. Using potions, it's not funny. You shouldn't. You broke off.
Something about Moaning Myrtle.
Yeah, I know. I have some notes, so let me see. Remember page 155, but we're going to backtrack to page 138.
Okay.
This is when Harry first saw the writing on the wall, and we found Mrs. Norris's petrified body and whatnot. Harry, he's chasing off after the unseen voice, which turns out to be the basilisk. But at this point, only Harry can hear it. They've come up from the Death Day party, which was down in the basements. And let's go. They backed toward the door, nodding and beaming at anyone who looked at them. A minute later, they were hurrying back up the passageway. And then Harry heard it. It was the same voice, the same cold, murderous voice he had heard in Lockhart's office. He stumbled to a halt, clutching at the stone wall, listening with all his might, looking around, squinting up and down the dimly lit passageway. "Harry, what are you... It's that voice again. Shut up a minute." "So hungry for so long." "Listen," said Harry urgently, and Ron and Hermione froze, watching him. "Go. Time to go." The voice was growing fainter. Harry was sure it was moving away, moving upward. A mixture of fear and excitement gripped him as he stared at the dark ceiling. How could it be moving upward? Was it a phantom to whom stone ceilings didn't matter? "This way," he shouted, and he began to run up the stairs into the entrance hall. It was no good hoping to hear anything there. The battle talk from the Halloween feast was echoing out in the great hall. Harry sprinted up the marble staircase to the first floor, Ron and Hermione clattering behind him. Harry strained his ears distantly from the floor above. And so then they chase up, ran up the next flight of steps 3 at a time, trying to listen. Harry hurtled around the whole of the 2nd floor, Ron and Hermione panting behind him, not stopping until they turned a corner into the last deserted passage. And that's where they find the writing and the petrified cat in the water.
Yes.
So we're on the 2nd floor. All that stuff happened on the 2nd floor. That's very well established there in the text.
Okay.
So now we're on page 155. And Hermione and Ron and Harry are just absentmindedly strolling through the school. I think they, I don't know, they left class or whatever. But the point is, it was about here, said Ron, recovering himself to walk a few paces past Filch's chair and pointing level with this door. And that's when Hermione's like, nobody's going to be in there, it's Moaning Myrtle's place. So Moaning Myrtle's bathroom is on the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
It's right across from where we first saw the writing on the wall in the petrified cat. But let's go back to page 132. The Death Day party. When Harry and Ron and Hermione are in there with all the ghosts. And Hermione spots Myrtle. Oh no, said Hermione, stopping abruptly. Turn back, I don't want to talk to Moaning Myrtle. Who? Said Harry as they backtracked quickly. She haunts one of the toilets in the girls' bathroom on the 1st floor.
Maybe.
To be fair, she could haunt more than one bathroom. She does show up in the prefect's bathroom and the bath. I can't remember if Draco goes in Myrtle's bathroom or if she just comes and hangs out with him in another bathroom when he's upset about not being able to fix the vanishing cabinet and he and Harry have the duel and Harry hits him with Sectum Semper and all that in book 6. But my point is, she pretty much, is associated with this one particular bathroom. So you think Hermione would reference that one particular bathroom. She even says, yes, it's been out of order all year because she keeps having tantrums and flooding the place. I never went in there anyway if I could avoid it. It's awful trying to have a pee with her wailing at you. So pretty much, it's one specific bathroom that Myrtle stays in. Hermione says it's on the 1st floor. Well, here it says it's on the 2nd floor. So which is it?
Yeah.
I know there's evidence of certain magical things moving around, but I don't think that's the case in this case. It just seemed like a complete typo that nobody bothered to notice. So again,
That's very interesting, though.
But also, Ron and
Great.
Hermione also heard the basilisk. So not hear it talking, but hear
yeah, well, we talked about that when we did this before. They would have heard at least a hissing or spitting, but these are the even more bits of minutia. Okay, anyway.
I hate when books and stories are like that.
Yeah, I think there might be...
Is this
I either have more follow-up to this, or there's another issue, either coming up later in this book or in my book 3, second deep dive.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the layout of the castle is pretty well established, but there are certain minor things that make you question it. This one in particular, when clearly Hermione said she haunted her toilet on the 1st floor, but now we established that her bathroom is on the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
And it did confuse me for a while, because apparently you have the entrance hall, and that's like the ground floor, and then the next floor up is actually the 1st floor. So it took me a while to figure that out. But here it clearly states that Myrtle's bathroom, the initial attack takes place on the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
And we established that Myrtle's bathroom is in the same spot, so we know that's 2nd floor. And Hermione clearly said 1st floor, and there's no reason you would mix up ground floor, 1st floor, 2nd floor, and call that 2nd floor the 1st floor. You might mistakenly call the bottom floor the ground floor, or the 1st floor the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying. Sometimes the bottom floor of something is called ground floor, and the 1st floor is until the next floor up.
Yeah.
And of course, then in Hogwarts you have the basements too, which makes it even more confusing. But this is pretty straightforward. The cat attack, the writing, 2nd floor, Myrtle's bathroom, same quarter. 2nd floor, Hermione said 1st floor. So.
Because isn't Myrtle's bathroom? Isn't that where the opening for the chambers?
Mm-hmm. Dude, control your cat. She's just table circling.
Okay, let me use my mind control powers.
Use your connection like Filch and Miss Nurse have.
While we do that, we're going to move up to Chapter 10, The Rogue Bludger, page 164.
Yeah, I can't do anything.
And they've gotten a note from Lockhart and gone to the restricted section so they can get a book to find out how to make Polyjuice Potion.
Yeah.
Hermione opened most potent potions carefully, and the 3 of them bent over the damp, spotted pages.
Okay.
I think there's another description of it before that too. They have Madame Pince go off and get the book. She stalked away. They don't actually go in the restricted section. They get a note to get the book out, and Madame Pince gets it for them. And she brings back a large and moldy-looking book, which we just said had damp, spotted pages. So why would a book be moldy and damp spotted in the Wizarding World? Couldn't they just magic that up real quick?
You'd think they would.
Why is it moldy and damp in the first place?
I mean...
And
That's kinda
especially
happens.
considering how fussy Madam Pince is about her books in the library.
True.
You know, screaming later on because they brought chocolate into the library, and getting upset because Harry has the Half-Blood Prince's book that's been written all over. You know, complaining that he befouled that book. So you'd think she would make sure that all the books were pristine.
Oh no, those drinking session books.
Then
she
again, I
doesn't
guess
care
could it be a
True.
magic mold that you can't magic away, like some things we've seen.
Maybe. She's having a great time on the table. But yeah, you would. Sometimes I question how much wizards and whatnot use their brains.
Anyway, continuing on with the vein of most potent potions in the polyjuice potion recipe, on page 166, Hermione says the fluxweed has got to be picked at the full moon. And one of the ingredients is fluxweed, and it's got to be picked at the full moon. So, fluxweed might have been something they could get out of the student cupboard. I don't think that's one of the things they had to steal from Snape. But my question is there a section for fluxweed picked at the full moon in the student cupboard? Because I don't think they're going out and picking their own fluxweed.
Probably not.
And, then is it only good for so long after being picked at the full moon? Because she says it in reference to how long it's going to take to make the potion. So they have to wait for the next full moon to get some. So is it, so it's picked at the full moon, but its efficacy is only for a few days or something. Why would it being picked at the full moon matter in relation to their potion unless the cover is just out, they've used it all for that store, and they have to wait till the next full moon comes along? It's just interesting that that's said in relation to the timing of the potion.
Can it only be picked
Because
at
again,
the
I don't
full
think
moon?
they're gonna. Maybe they're gonna sneak out and pick it at the next full moon. But I'm assuming they're gonna get it from the student cupboard, like she references. And it's just like, is the student cupboard empty now? How long is it good for after the full moon? Or is the picked at full moon section empty now? So that's all I'm saying.
Real quick before you say the next thing, I just wanted to say that I popped onto Twitter for a second, and Harry Potter is currently on my For You page thing because apparently Peacock has the series now.
You mean the movies?
Yeah, I
got you.
fine. I was about to say, if there's another series or you can suddenly watch books on a streaming service.
Moving along
books.
in the book now, still in the Rogue Bludger, now page 167. Wood is giving a pep talk to the Gryffindor Quidditch team. I believe this is the day of the Quidditch match with the Slytherins where Dobby magics the bludger, etc., etc. We're probably not going to talk that much about it here because I'm sure we talked about it at length in the other one. But at this point, Wood's giving his pep talk. He says, no point denying it, but no point denying that Slytherin has better brooms than us, but we've got better people on our brooms. We've trained harder than they have. We've been flying in all weathers. Too true, muttered George Weasley. I haven't been properly dry since August, but school starts in September.
What's George been up to?
So, I guess it's been raining since August, maybe in Britain, but
Maybe.
has nothing to do with them training for Quidditch, unless he's training at the Weasley's paddock that you mentioned.
Oh gosh.
Now he's been in the shower. Oops. I kicked the thing.
George has just been up to something.
He's been in the shower. Just chilling.
Speaking of that,
But it's George, so nobody questions it.
Speaking of that Rogue Bludger, I guess we are going to bring it up because on page 170, we see that Harry in his attempts to avoid it. He knew he must look very stupid, but the Rogue Bludger was heavy and couldn't change direction as quickly as Harry could. How fucking heavy is a bludger? Certainly it's not heavier than a person, and Harry's broom's carrying his weight on there. You telling me that bludger weighs 150 pounds or so?
Maybe.
Made the way bad turning.
I would say maybe it's the aerodynamics of it, but what would the aerodynamics of a round ball be compared to a person on a broom? I would think the ball would probably move better through air, but I'm not that well versed in...
I haven't studied aerodynamics in a
So.
long time.
I don't know.
And when I did, I was like 10, so it was just a brief thing, Mm-hmm. So I don't have an answer as to what the aerodynamics of a ball is. That is something we could learn, though.
Anyway, Dobby's bludger ends up breaking Harry's arm, and Lockhart tries to mend it, but ends up taking all the bones out, so Harry has to spend the weekend, in the
Noodle.
the hospital ward.
With a
And while
noodle.
he's there, Dobby comes and pays him a visit. On page 176 in chapter 10, The Rogue Bludger, we see that when Dobby's talking to Harry now, he reveals that Harry figured out / he said he figured out that Dobby was the one that stopped them from getting through the barrier. Yeah. "Indeed, yes, sir," said Dobby, nodding his head vigorously, ears flapping. "Dobby hid and watched for Harry Potter and sealed the gateway, and Dobby had to iron his hands afterwards." He showed Harry 10 long, bandaged fingers. I mean, considering that school started in September, and it's now November at least, I don't think Dobby's hands will still be bandaged from that particular injury. Maybe he's just holding up his hands as an example, and he has bandaged from a new injury because apparently he has to injure himself regularly in the service of the Malfoys. And then again, maybe they're still injured, but then again, couldn't he just magic the injury away, or are you not allowed to do that as a house elf?
I'm going to
If it's
assume
not
he's not
punishment.
allowed or something.
Maybe house elves can't do that. Get the elf magic to magic the injury away.
Again,
That's all human magic.
Yeah.
Elf magic seems to be pretty fucking strong, though.
Well, yeah, but no one said they had all the same spells. Maybe there's stronger versions of human spells.
Anyway, still during Dobby's visit to Harry, on the next page, of course, Harry finds out that Dobby let slip that it was his bludger. Dobby mopped his bulging eyes and said suddenly, "Harry Potter must go home. Dobby thought his bludger would be enough to make..." "Your bludger," said Harry, anger rising once more. "What do you mean, your bludger? You made that bludger try and kill me?" "Not kill you, sir. Never kill you. Dobby wants to save Harry Potter's life. Better sent home, grievously injured, than remain here, sir." So, do students regularly get sent home from Hogwarts for injuries?
I wouldn't think so.
Dobby doesn't really seem to know how things work in the wizarding world.
Yeah, I don't think he's been well educated on how it works.
I mean, even Katie, who was cursed within an inch of her life from the opal necklace in Half-Blood Prince, came back to Hogwarts after her stay in St. Mungo's.
Yeah.
I think she went home for like a day or two with her parents, but then she still came back to school afterwards.
Yeah.
So even if Harry went home, even if Harry had to go home
school
for a while for some strange reason, he probably would have come back.
I think maybe as a house elf, he's just not really
Dobby.
about it, so
As
he's
Dobby,
making these
no
assumptions.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure what happens to Montague. He does go home with his parents after he had been shut in the vanishing cabinet and magicked himself into a toilet and was stuck there and had to be rescued.
Yeah.
We don't know if he ever came back, but still, I don't think students regularly go home for injuries at Hogwarts.
Me neither.
Alright, page 179. Still in the Rogue Bludger chapter. This is, of course, Harry's still in the hospital when Dumbledore and McGonagall bring in the petrified body of Colin Creevey.
Colin.
We see Dumbledore was backing into the dormitory wearing a long woolly dressing gown and a nightcap. He was carrying one end of what looked like a statue. Professor McGonagall appeared a second later carrying its feet. Together they heaved it onto a bed. Couldn't they just use fucking magic to get him in there? Again, why are they carrying it when they could just... Is it sort of like in Star Wars, you know, at least at some point, Luke learns that you shouldn't rely on the Force for everything, and that's something that Sith tend to do. That Jedi realize you can't overwork the Force. It's not there to do your bidding. You can work with it when you need to, but you shouldn't overdo it. So this is the case of where wizards don't want to overdo the magic,
Maybe.
or they just like, let's just carry him. Oh, I forgot we could have magicked it. Oh well,
Magic is
That's probably something they do.
Magic is a
I feel as though they would have been like, oh, we've got to get him to the thing and just picked him up because just like instinctively they just like, oh, let's just carry him, and then they're like, we could have just magicked him here.
Dumbledore's had magic for 100+ years. You really think magic would be more instinctive at this point?
Probably, but you never know. What?
I don't know.
Why the fuck can you create lightning with the Force?
Why not?
But I know on page 180, still in chapter 10, the Rogue Bludger, we find out that Dumbledore had stumbled across Colin's petrified body because he was, according to McGonagall, on the way downstairs for hot chocolate. Why does Dumbledore have to go downstairs to get his hot chocolate? He can't get a house elf to bring some up to him?
Maybe he'd rather go down to them.
Maybe. Or maybe he just wants, I want to go for a stroll. It's
Yeah.
relaxing or whatever, but it still seems strange.
He's a get up in the middle of the night for his chalky milk.
Not only that, but couldn't he just magic something to himself?
Dumbledore wants some
Wait.
chalky Akio chalky milk.
Oh gosh. Like you said something about lightning with the Force. Are you trying to tell me that Fur is both a wizard and a Jedi?
Yes. He is a wizard Jedi.
Alright, on page 183, chapter 11, the Dueling Club.
What I read. So, Force lightning is a dark side move. So.
Percy Weasley mentions to Harry, "Oh, hello, Harry. Excellent flying yesterday. Really excellent. Gryffindor has just taken the lead for the House Cup. You earned 50 points. So who gave Harry the points in this case? Is that just the difference in the score, and that's how points work when Quidditch is factored into the House Cup? Because we know Quidditch plays a part in the House Cup. So it's like the difference in the score, that's what the winning team gets?
Maybe.
Or did some professor award Harry 50 points and Harry just didn't know anything about it?
I have no idea.
It's never made completely clear how the
That
points
first
work
one makes
in
more
relation to Quidditch,
sense.
but
They don't have to, like, you breathed.
Maybe it's like a
500
default, like the
points.
winning team gets X amount points.
oh, by the way, I skipped one. We need to go back a page. I apologize. Back to page 180, still in the Colin Creevey, Harry, Dumbledore, McGonagall in the hospital ward section.
Yeah.
Professor McGonagall says, "What does this mean, Albus?" "It means that the Chamber of Secrets is indeed open again." Was the petrification of Mrs. Norris and the writing on the wall not enough to prove the chamber was open?
Maybe it was like enough to suspect it strongly, but not to the point that Dumbledore actually wanted to say it was open. But at this point, he's like, okay, screw it. We're
So how come
being
the
dumb,
petrification
it's
of Colin proves it, but not Mrs. Norris? Does Dumbledore does not care about animals?
open? Maybe he just needed another.
Oh, it's just a
one,
stupid cat getting petrified.
Yeah, it's like.
I'd like to think Dumbledore's a cat person.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he's into them all now, but he's
Aren't
just
the
sitting here like,
basilisk
okay,
even
cat's
petrifying all these
petrified.
people?
That's concerning, but
Part of
let's not
Basilisk's powers
panic.
is- well, his eyes.
I mean, I know-
his eyes kill you if you look right into him, but apparently, if you just get them from a mirror or a reflection or through a ghost or something, it just dumbs it down a bit.
Yeah, I know that, but it's like, is this like sneaking around the school to a giant
No, it
basilisk?
goes through the plumbing, and then it comes out, and then it comes out of the bathroom, and then people are running into it. And then once it
Isn't
petrifies, well, I guess
people
once it petrifies,
not
like,
there?
well, did my job for today. Back to the bathroom.
I think people just want to stay away from that bathroom.
Well, I don't think it's just happening right there.
So they're going halfway across the school.
Nobody realizes that the bathroom is the exit, or if they do, they're not saying it.
If that's playing that, the giant basilisk can just go halfway across the school without anyone noticing.
Hey.
Anyway, speaking of the chamber being open, on 185, we find out that in the second week of December, Professor McGonagall came around as usual collecting names of those who would be staying at school for Christmas. And I find it kind of odd that the students were allowed to stay over Christmas when Dumbledore was so sure the chamber was open again.
I
It's
don't think
only-
that
There's talk both now and
Yeah.
50 years ago that the school might be closed because of the chamber being open, and Tom Riddle wanted to stay at Hogwarts over the summer, and the headmaster at the time, Armando Dippet, said special arrangements might have been made, but in light of the current circumstances, i.e. the chamber being opened, even though Dippet wouldn't say it was the chamber, he couldn't allow it. So it's surprising that students were allowed to stay over Christmas still, with the chamber definitely being open.
Well, there's Dumbledore. Dumbledore doesn't
I
care.
think maybe that he's taking things slowly. He's like, okay, pretty sure the chamber's open. We're not gonna panic. Yeah, just keep going with the holidays. It's fine. But then sometime after the holidays, he's like, it might not be so fine.
Anyway, moving along, page 201. Harry and Bobby, Ron, and Hermione
Bob.
run into. I just see Harry's name on this page. It may just be Harry, though. He may be coming in from practice of some kind.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, no, this is when Harry had gone to find Justin Finch Fletchley and explain what really happened at the dueling club. Which I've always thought was stupid that people thought Harry was egging the snake on. I mean, clearly after he said something to him, the snake became docile and backed away, but we probably covered that before.
Probably.
And I wasn't there, so maybe it did look different. But anyway, and Harry's by himself in the school. He's left Ron and Hermione in the common room. He's gone and had his little contretemps with the Hufflepuffs in the library, and then he runs into Hagrid. And Harry asks Hagrid, "What are you doing in here?" Hagrid held up a limp rooster. "Second one killed this term. It's either foxes or a blood-sucking bugbear, and I need the headmaster's permission to put a charm around the hen coop." I mean, he didn't ask permission for the pumpkins. Did he really
Bugbear?
need permission for that charm? I think he
Bugbear?
remembered. Yeah, bugbear.
Do we ever see
Blood-sucking
those again?
bugbear, to be exact.
Do we ever see those
such a
again?
rip-off of D&D.
Maybe D&D's a rip-off of Harry. Actually, they're probably both ripping something else off, in all honesty. There's a good chance neither one of them invented that term.
Do we see the bugbear later on?
I think that's the only reference to one. It's the only one that
So that's another one of those things that make.
Although I do...
references
I don't
slash
think
parents
bugbears
and
are from
it
The
never
Hobbit
exists.
or Lord of the
Let's
Rings.
see. I do have a copy of Fantastic... Hold this book for a second, Bill.
Okay.
I do have a copy of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them over here.
Nice.
We can see if it has any reference to a bugbear.
I will just hold all of those books for you when.
This is my living room bookshelf. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean my studio bookshelf. Didn't mean to give that much of a peek behind the curtain.
Nice.
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This is like the textbook, Fantastic Beasts.
Yes.
I do have a copy of the script
What are
for
the
the
other
first
two
movie as well.
textbooks?
Well, they're not textbooks exactly. We have Quidditch Through the Ages and The Tales of Beetle the Bard, neither of which are
yeah.
textbooks.
The more you try and search up bugbear to see where it was first invented, and you find the word bugbear,
Okay.
There's no reference to bugbears in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Well, that's nice.
So apparently Newt Scamander never chronicled them.
So Hagrid just knows of this thing that Newt didn't.
Maybe there's a recent discovery.
apparently bugbear is actually a noun, a cause
Still
of
around.
obsessive fear,
Just, I guess,
irritation,
the
or
books sold.
loathing.
Wait, what?
Bugbear is an actual noun, a cause of obsessive fear, irritation, or loathing.
So it was a psychosis that was killing the roosters. They're going crazy.
They've lost their heads.
I didn't know.
Anyway, page 215 now, chapter 12, the Polyjuice Potion. We are in a... Oh yeah, this is when they actually take the Polyjuice Potion.
Alright.
And they had been brewing the Polyjuice Potion in a stall in Moaning Merle's bathroom, thinking that was the safest place because, quote, nobody would go in there,
Reasonable.
end quote, even though they clearly go in there.
You'd think that if they're suspecting something with the chamber, maybe one of the teachers would go in there.
But anyway, they could hardly see for the thick black smoke issuing from the stall in which Hermione was stirring the cauldron. Pulling the robes over their faces, Harry and Ron knocked softly on the door. They heard the scrape of the log, and Hermione emerged, shiny faced and looking anxious. Behind her they heard the gloop gloop of the bubbling gluttonous potion. 3 glass tumblers stood ready on the toilet seat. But I thought the cauldron was sitting on the toilet seat.
Everything is on the toilet seat.
Right.
Why'd you put it on the toilet?
I have a note reference to 183. Apparently they put it on the toilet seat, and Hermione's got this waterproof fire that she's lit underneath it that I guess is just sitting in the water.
Waterproof fires.
See, it says right here, this is page 183, chapter 11, the Dueling Club. An old cauldron was perched on the toilet, and a crackling from under the rim told Harry they had lit a fire beneath it. Conjuring up portable waterproof fires was a specialty of Hermione's. So again, they have room on the toilet seat for a big cauldron plus 3 glasses.
Yeah, I've got a question.
I like that Hermione's specialty is portable waterproof fires.
Plus, I ain't drinking out of something that's been sitting on a toilet seat, but
I mean, that's fact.
regardless.
I've
I'd
studied how to
imagine
make
that
portable
they,
waterproof
that
fires.
they would put, like, the cauldron on the seat or whatever, and then if there's a back to the toilet, that's where they'd put the
I guess it could
tumblers.
be smaller, but it seemed like if it was too small, it would just fall through.
Exactly.
But anyway, same page. Hermione says that she sneaked these spare robes out of the laundry for Harry and Ron because they'll need bigger ones once they transform into Crabbe and Goyle. But my question is, what is the laundry like at Hogwarts? If Hermione's been there, wouldn't she know there were house elves in Hogwarts? Because presumably they would be doing the laundry.
Nope. It's Filch's
But
job.
then again, do the elves not do the laundry? Because then they'd be set free if they touch the clothing.
Exactly.
So then again, who's doing it? Is like
Filch.
McGonagall down there
It's Filch.
watching? Poor Filch.
he does it all. The only thing he doesn't do is make all the food.
Alright, I need to pull out the first Harry Potter book now for this next note, if y'all will indulge me. If you would
Yeah.
please turn that to page... Oh shoot, okay, I don't have a page number.
Yeah.
Check book 1 when Harry sees Snape and Hermione waits for Flitwick. That would be... do you think you can find that part?
No.
That would be around through the trapdoor. When Harry sees Snape's bite... Okay, so I think this is another instance of where something is located.
Okay, I was gonna say, you over there memorizing all the little details of Harry Potter Book 1, asking me if I could find that spot, me trying to say no, ends up stabbing myself in the eye with my finger.
So
This
let's see.
is
This
so
would have to be
lovely.
after Halloween because that's when Snape got bit. I'm just gonna find a
Range
couple.
of
I'm gonna find a
great
couple
power.
pages in here, and then if you guys could just hold on to the pages for me.
Okay.
So
This
let's see.
is,
It'd be after the. No, it'd be before the Quidditch
The
match
Range of
because it's when
Brain Power.
Snape takes the book from Harry, and then Harry goes to the teacher's lounge to get it. So it'd be before the actual Quidditch game.
Okay.
It was Quidditch Through the Ages, Harry showed him, and then Snape says you can't have library books outside the school. Yeah, here we go. The Gryffindor common room was very noisy that evening. Harry wished he had his book. Then he gets up and tells Ron and Hermione he's going to ask Snape if he could have it. He made his way down to the staff room and knocked. I think that's the key point. I think we're talking about the location of the staff room here, perhaps. He's been up in Gryffindor Tower, which I don't know exactly what floor Gryffindor Tower is on. There's some confusion about that as well. And maybe we're talking about Gryffindor Tower as well. But we've established that the staff room is below Gryffindor Tower.
Yes.
That would probably be, that's on page 182 here. And then later on when they're getting ready to go through the trap door, Hermione goes to try to guard the staff room and prevent Snape from coming out.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure the point is that she's going to go either down to the staff room or come back up from the staff room. Do you mind not?
I apologize.
Wall kicking the glasses.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, apparently that was a bad place for you to put them.
Yeah, apparently.
Wait, you put yours that day?
No, I handed you mine.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Something about Stafford.
yeah, I know. I found the page. Harry just said at least Hermione's on Snape's hill when the porch of the fat lady swung open. Hermione came in. I'm sorry, Harry. Snape came out and asked me what I was doing. I only just got away. I don't know where Snape went. So I'm just wondering if there's a point where they tell Hermione to go down there. One of us has got to keep an eye on Snape. Wait outside the staff room and follow him if he leaves. Hermione, you'd better do it. But she agreed to go and watch out for Snape. Yeah, it doesn't really say. It says she went down there, but we definitely established on page 182 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone that the staff room is below Gryffindor Tower.
Yes.
The prescient note here is for page 228 of Harry Potter in the Chamber of Secrets, which puts us in chapter 13, The Very Secret Diary. And I say, my note, so the hospital wing is on the ground floor or first floor or lower. But Harry says, we'll take you up on page 226. And they go downstairs to the staff room from there on page 292. So on page 228... Anyway, what are we establishing here? The hospital wing? Yeah, because this is after Hermione has gone to the hospital wing with the cat fur all over herself and taking the polyjuice potion and had the cat hair in it.
Yes.
So Harry and Ron have gone to visit her, and then they're leaving. Is Lockhart the smartest bloke you've ever met, or what? Ron said to Harry as they left the infirmary and started up the stairs toward Gryffindor Tower. So again, we're establishing... Oh yeah, okay. Blah, 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 blah. Ron was just saying he wished he had asked Hermione how many rat tails you were supposed to add to a hair-raising potion when an angry outburst from the floor above reached their ears. And then they go up and they find that Filch had been outside of Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. This is when Ginny tries to flush the diary and the water spills out.
Yes.
So they've left the hospital wing and the floor they've started up the stairs toward Gryffindor Tower. So the floor above them,
Yes.
as they hurried up the stairs and paused out of sight. So apparently, it sounds like the hospital wing might be on the first floor.
Yeah.
Because then they're starting up the stairs. They hear the noise above, and they continue up the stairs. They're now on the second floor.
Yeah. The bathroom would be on the second floor.
Okay, and then on page 226, which is when they take Hermione to the hospital wing, now here's the problem. They're in Mona Merle's bathroom on the second floor. Harry says, we'll take you up to the hospital wing. But then a couple pages later, they leave the hospital wing and go up to where Moaning Myrtle's bathroom is.
Yeah.
And then on page 292, I do have a note to check on in book 1 of where the hospital wing is, but I don't think there's any specifics about it. I'm pretty sure I did look back and not find anything.
Okay.
So on page 292, they go downstairs to the staff room from there. From where? Yeah, they're in the hospital after Hermione's been petrified, and they find the note in her hand, and then they ran downstairs to the staff room.
Okay.
So that establishes that the hospital wing is above the staff room.
Yes.
And we've established the staff room is below Gryffindor Tower.
Yes.
And we've established that the hospital wing is also below Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Except they talk about going up to the hospital wing from Moaning Myrtle's bathroom.
Maybe it's like, oh yeah.
And now we've got a case of them going down to the staff room from the... So it's very confusing.
The hospital wing just changed.
Maybe they'll.
It almost
Maybe
seems like it.
maybe it's a
It seems like we have like.
Talking like, oh yeah, I'll bring you up.
Okay, how did we establish the
But you would still
floors?
say down.
Okay, how did we establish the floors? Is it ground floor, first floor,
It's
second?
definitely ground floor, first floor, second floor.
Okay, so second floor.
Painstakingly went through and well, even early in this book, you saw they were they came up from the Death Day party, which was down in the dungeons, to the floor with the entrance hall. They went up one set of steps, then another set of steps. So they went up 2 floors from there to get to the second, and then they specifically say they're on the second floor.
Yeah. Okay, so second floor is the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
First floor is the hospital wing.
But they go up to it.
I know. That one's confusing. The ground floor would have the staff room thing, and then Gryffindor Tower is 3rd floor or higher.
Yeah, well, we do know that Gryffindor Tower is higher than the hospital wing because it says they start up the stairs toward Gryffindor Tower.
Yes.
And they go down to the staff room.
Yes.
Then they also go down from the hospital wing to the staff room.
Yes.
But then they claim they're going to go up from Moaning Merle's bathroom, even though
that
later
one.
they go down. So yeah, just
That
another thing
part's
where the location's not exactly set in stone, and I have no real consensus to say it's definitely here or there. At least we know Moaning Myrtle's bathroom is on the 2nd floor, despite the fact that Hermione says it's the 1st floor. There's clear evidence that it is on the 2nd floor. But where the hospital wing is in relation to that, I'm not sure. We know it's below Gryffindor Tower, and we know the staff room is below Gryffindor Tower.
That's what I was going to say. Unless one of these rooms, most likely, like the hospital wing, could technically be multiple stories.
But there's never any evidence of
I
that.
know, that's what I'm saying, though. That's the only way I could explain the up and down.
But then again, they're basically going to the same place, and they go up one time and down another time.
It's just that case of you do whatever you first think.
I suppose. I mean, it could be like you have like the triage area and then the actual dormitory where the sick people are in the beds. But
Yeah.
I just
Never
think it's a mistake personally.
Probably.
It's one of the few real egregious mistakes, and again, it doesn't really change anything unless you really want to deep dive into it like we are. And this is the kind of thing that only comes when you've read the books multiple times. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily even notice that the first time
Yeah.
or the first half a dozen times. Anyway, getting back to other minutiae. On page 230, still in chapter 13, the very secret diary. This is when they're investigating Moaning Merle's bathroom and what caused the flood. And Merle tells them somebody tried to flush a book, which turned out to be Riddle's diary, into the toilet.
Yes.
So it's either a really small book or a really big toilet, that's all I'm saying. Because even this book I'm holding in my hand is a pretty average-sized book, and it ain't going down a toilet, not one that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking the diary was probably about this size.
It's a tiny book.
And we have
it is a diary.
we have the paperback copies of the first 2 Harry Potter books, which are both less than 300 pages.
There's 2 things I'll
To give
say.
you an idea of the size.
2 things here. One, it was just a dumb idea. Yeah, it was never going to flush. Though it wouldn't have gotten wet enough even to flush. We've just been misled, and the diary's not normal notebook size. And it's more like a pocket notebook situation.
Like
Now that still likely wouldn't flush, but has more of a chance.
I mean, I don't know if they really describe it. Just says it's a small, thin book.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's small.
But it wouldn't
It
get
would be
wet
pretty
enough
damn
to
small to
flush.
try to flush it.
I mean, find the money to fix our plumbing when things go wrong. Get some books. We'll go test it.
Welcome to Silly Ideas and Harry Potter Books Busters. Well, welcome to Silly Idea and Harry Potter Theory. Anyway, moving along. The next page, page 231. This is when Harry finds the name T.M. Riddle on the diary.
T.M. Riddle.
And Ron says he recognizes
Little
it.
TM.
He recognizes it because it's the name that was on the special services for the school from 50 years before that Ron had to polish. I find it a little odd that Dumbledore would allow Tom Riddle's shield to stay in the trophy room. Especially since Dumbledore knows he probably didn't deserve it. And again, since they sort of want to erase the history and nobody really knows that Tom Riddle is Voldemort and Dumbledore's one of the few who do it, just seems odd to me that they would keep that in the school.
Yeah.
Especially once Dumbledore took charge.
No, that's not Tom Riddle. That's T.M. Riddle.
Little
Tom
TM.
Marvolo Riddle.
T.M. Riddle.
Little TM. He just
Okay.
trademarked his last
He's a
name.
Pokemon TM.
Nope.
He's a technical machine.
Nope. He just trademarked his last name.
Well, anyway, next
I don't think it's
page.
Riddle.
Next page, page 232. Ron's diary, Hermione. Oh, it's still when they first found the diary, and Harry says, he must have been Muggle-born to have bought a diary from Vauxhall Road, even though Tom Riddle wasn't Muggle-born. He's half-blood, but he was raised in a Muggle orphanage, so he's kind of right. He's clearly somebody who lived in the Muggle world, but he wasn't really Muggle-born. But I'm not saying this is a mistake. I'm just saying this is a technicality. Technically, he wasn't Muggle, but Harry's right. It was somebody who was raised in the Muggle world.
He lived
Why
in the
do you
Muggle
need
world.
to be in the Muggle world to buy a...
You don't really, but I guess he just pointed out that that's a Muggle area, and he didn't buy it from Diagon Alley or whatever, where most wizards would buy their stuff. But you're absolutely right too. A wizard could buy something from the Muggle world.
Yeah.
But he is on the right track that it's somebody who was raised in the Muggle world.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's more familiar with the Muggle world than Arthur Weasley.
All right, moving along in chapter 13. This covers pages 236 to 239. I don't really want to read the whole thing.
Okay.
But we know that Lockhart has this big Valentine's Day thing going on. Happy Valentine's Day! May I thank the 46 people who have so far sent me cards. Yes, I have taken the liberty of arranging this little surprise for you all, and it doesn't end here. My friendly card-carrying Cupids, they will be roving around the school today delivering your Valentines. Hopefully that's enough to set the note up here. I have... were the Valentines that the dwarves delivered from Lockhart, and again, this we've mentioned this before, this is the one time you hear of dwarves in Harry Potter. We have elves in the form of house elves, of course, but this is the one reference to dwarves in Harry Potter.
Okay.
So what were the dwarves like in Harry Potter?
But anyway, they're described here as a dozen surly-looking dwarves. That's what you got. Not just any dwarves, however. Lockhart had them all wearing golden wings and carrying harps.
Do they also have big beards as well?
Doesn't say anything about beards. Alright, yeah, Johnny decided to join us for the last little bit of Harry Potter talk here. I don't know what he'll add to the conversation. Yeah, you. Look at the surprise on his face. I wish this were a vodcast.
He's attacking.
Now he's beating people up with a stuffed dog. Okay, no,
Okay,
no.
let's talk Harry Potter.
You gotta be
now.
quiet, remember? You can't be rambunctious like that. Alright, here we go. Again, were the Valentines that the dwarves delivered from Lockhart, or was it a means for students to send them to each other?
Yeah.
Because Harry gets the one from the dwarf, and there's a bit of a reference to Ginny having sent it to him, which I don't know that she did. But on page 239, Malfoy yells at Ginny, I don't think Potter liked your Valentine much. Ginny covered her face with her hands and ran into class. Now, she might be more upset about the fact that Harry has the diary that she tried to get rid of, because that spills out of his bag when the dwarf tears it.
Yeah.
But it does seem like maybe this is a case of students giving each other Valentines. Like, I know when I was in school, we could, at Valentine's every year, we could buy carnations for other students and have them sent to them. So I wonder if it's, something like that, just a method for students to give Valentines to each other, or if these are all just coming from Lockhart.
That I don't know. That's a good thing. Personally, my Valentine's stories from school was us just doing, those store-bought Valentine things that we'd pass out to the entire class.
Yeah, we did that as well.
Yeah. There was a book that I read where they could buy, like, carnations or something, and, like, the different colors meant different things. And so they'd send those. I know in Mingles they send, like, candy canes at Christmas time. Or what you call it.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I wonder if it's
That would be interesting.
a student sharing
I
thing, or if it's just all coming from Lockhart.
want to know more about the holidays at Hogwarts now. Like,
I want to know more about the dwarves.
You mentioned early on how Tom Riddle wanted to stay over the summer.
Yeah.
And it was said that arrangements could possibly be made if it wasn't for the change. I just want to stay where some students stay over for the summer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really think of
Hogwarts for the summer.
Like, I don't think of Hogwarts being open or doing things over the summer. And that was, recently I was thinking of Percy Jackson. I was sitting here like, one of the similarities is Percy Jackson, you have them the summer. Hogwarts, you have them the school year. But now I would like
So in
Hogwarts
theory,
for
somebody
the
could
summer.
go to Hogwarts and go to Camp Half-Blood.
Yes.
Anyway,
Though I guess technically in theory, they'd actually be going to the American school.
I guess so.
Unless this would have, well, no, because Camp Half-Blood would have only been America. There may have been something
Even though
similar
they're the children
to
of
it
the Greek
previously.
gods.
It's because that all moves around.
Yeah. I know. I'm just making fun.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's great. There's also out in California, there's a Roman version.
So anyway, also on page 139, that same scene with the dwarf and the Valentine and Ginny, Of course, the bag has been ripped. Draco goes to, he actually picks up the diary, and Harry pulls out his wand and Expelliarmus! And diary goes flying in the air, and Ron catches it. And Percy, who's there, Harry, no magic in the corridors. I'll have to report this, you know. Report it. Why isn't he just taking points away?
True.
He does that to Ron at another point in the book.
True.
Just a bit odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess he's just flustered, but you would think
Oddities.
Percy would be able to handle the responsibilities of
Oh, definitely
being prefect.
Percy. So that's interesting.
Anyway, moving up to 258. Colin, Hermione, and Justin, who are all petrified by the basilisk, and we're in chapter 14 now, Cornelius Fudge, they're all Muggle-born. But if Hermione is right in book 7, Penelope Clearwater, who is also petrified, she was petrified along with Hermione,
Yeah.
she's half-blood.
Okay.
Now, it's possible Hermione just uses that name and attaches it to being half-blood. She didn't? Do you have evidence of that?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think she's telling the truth, but...
Can you share that evidence, please?
But of course,
Okay.
now, on page 261 here, I think Fudge actually makes reference. He says... Oh, I'm on 260. That's not going to help, no, is it? So Johnny jetted. I guess he went to go get that information, but we're going to soldier on. Page 261, Cornelius Fudge flat out says... 4 attacks on Muggleborns. So he's lumping Penelope Clearwater into the Muggleborns. Maybe he's just misinformed. Maybe she really is. Or maybe somebody snooty like Fudge considers half-blood the same as Muggleborn. I don't know. But
Maybe.
There's some question as to what her blood status, as if it matters. But still, whatever it is.
And maybe some people just use it as anyone that isn't pure, you know, who's at least partially Muggle.
Also on page 258, though, George says... Percy's in shock. That Ravenclaw girl, Penelope Clearwater, she's a prefect. I don't think he thought the monster would dare attack a prefect. Why would the monster give a fuck if you're a prefect?
Right?
Oh, that's a
prefect. My bad. I'll go
Sorry,
on now.
I know I'm a giant snake, but, you know.
Prefects.
Anyway, chapter 15, Aragog, page 267.
Elgog.
I'm quite surprised the Mudbloods haven't all packed the bags by now, Malfoy went on. Bet you 5 gallons the next one dies. Pity it wasn't Granger. And this is in the middle of potions class. I'm all surprised Snape didn't tell Malfoy off for saying Mudblood.
Yeah.
He does it to Phineas Nigellus in book 7, but maybe at this point he feels like he still needs to keep his cover, I don't know.
Maybe.
Or maybe he just doesn't like Harry and Hermione and Ron so much he's not going to stand up for them. He only stands up for people he likes, like Harry's mom.
Right. That's probably that.
So getting toward the end of the book now, we're going to jump up to page 292. This is when Harry and Ron have surmised that it's a basilisk, and then it's moving through the plumbing, and that it may well be coming from Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. And they've gone down to the staff room because they want to tell the staff about it, what they know, so maybe they can root it out.
Yeah.
And of course, that's when the emergency meeting is called, and they hide in the wardrobe. Probably the same one that the Boggart is in later. But anyway, they... overhear the staff talking about how Ginny Weasley's been taken into the chamber and now they're going to have to close the school and whatnot. And so they just keep to themselves and go back up to the dormitory and have a rough night until they finally decide to go say something to Lockhart because they're under the impression that he's going to go deal with it. But why didn't they just still tell the staff what they knew? They're all right there.
True. They could have very easily done that.
Or why didn't they even at least tell the other Weasleys for that matter?
That's another
Why just keep it to
true thing.
themselves?
Like Ron's just sitting there knowing about his sister freaking out.
I mean, they do eventually decide to tell Lockhart anyway, so why didn't they just tell the staff then and there?
Yeah.
I guess maybe they wouldn't go tell the other Weasleys because then the other Weasleys might be try to be in on all this, handling it, etc. You know.
Well, they could have used the help.
Yeah, they could.
I mean, Harry did pretty well, but...
I mean, more people does risk more death.
Unless the greater numbers help you avoid death.
Exactly.
Yeah, but pretty much
It depends on the
looks
situation.
there'll be a person. So the basilisk will need to lose his eyes.
Well, anyway, moving along in chapter 16, on page 300, they're in Myrtle's bathroom with Lockhart, they being Harry and Ron. And Myrtle points out, somewhere over there is where the creature came that killed her. Harry and Ron hurried over to it. Lockhart was standing well back, a look of utter terror on his face. It looked like an ordinary sink. They examined every inch of it, inside and out, including the pipes below, and then Harry saw it. Scratched on the side of one of the copper taps was a tiny snake. That tap's never worked, said Myrtle brightly as he tried to turn it. Seems odd that nobody ever bothered to investigate a tap that never worked. I mean, most wizards would probably just magic it right away, or at least send Filch down there to do some plumbing on it.
Always
Precisely.
Kind of odd that they never investigated that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, 50 years now?
Since the last time it was open, but I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of people just don't.
I'm pretty
use
sure
that
wizarding
bathroom.
history says that it's been
Probably.
open more than that.
They don't use that bathroom a lot nowadays. But what about before then?
I'm just saying, you feel like somebody would have pointed out the tap doesn't work. Besides being cutthroat, apparently the wizarding world's just like, nah, if it breaks, just let it go. Unless they feel like fixing it, which, I mean, it's like magic.
I mean,
you
if
can fix it quickly.
And either they're going to fix it or they're going to send Filch to fix it.
If they're like 8 tabs,
Wait a second.
then
I have to ask.
so
how old
everyone's
is
using
Filch?
Emma.
I don't know.
So it's happened that no one used that tap.
Wait.
Anyway, we're going to wrap this up in this chapter. Not even going to get to my very favorite chapter, The Heir of Slytherin. But
It's fair because there wasn't too many complaints.
Well, I'm sure we covered it more on our
Probably.
previous deep dive. But the last note I have here comes from page 303. This is they're down in the chamber. They see the skin that the basilisk has shed. Blimey, said Ron weakly. There was a sudden movement behind them. Gilderoy Lockhart's knees had given way. Get up, said Ron sharply, pointing his wand at Lockhart. Lockhart got to his feet. Then he dived at Ron, knocking him to the ground. Harry jumped forward, but too late. Lockhart was straightening up, panting, Ron's wand in his hand and a gleaming smile back on his face. And this is when he tells them, oh, I'm going to take your memories away, and I'll go back up and say how you tragically lost your minds, and, explains to them, hey, all this stuff in my books I didn't really do, but I did have to do work, putting memory charms on people, finding exactly what happened, etc., etc. And then he tries to cast a memory charm, and luckily Ron's wand backfires, causes the tunnel to cave in, and wipes Lockhart's memory. But my thing is, all this time he's monologuing, I think Harry would have had time to disarm him.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe that's why they didn't give Ron a new wand, because Dumbledore's that smart.
So he can see the fucking future.
He's
He's
that
not just
big
looking
brain.
behind the scenes.
Let's go out by proving this now. I'm gonna be Lockhart, and sometime during this, one of you try to disarm me with your wand.
Okay.
So let's see.
Gotta give it a minute to realize that it's gonna
The
go on for a
disarming
while,
spell?
though.
Okay. I take some of that back. I guess most of that monologuing was done in his office. Oh, did you find the evidence? Okay. I'm not sure that your Black Panther figure proves anything, but it's an interesting argument. You want to come back for the wrap up here? We're just about done. Oh, you're gonna leave? Okay.
He's like yes and leave.
Okay. Anyway, it's a shorter speech than I thought, but still, I think we can do it. So, who wants to be Harry? Okay, Dylan, you're
I guess
Harry.
I'm Harry.
Lexi, you are too, but for this case, you're gonna be Ron.
Okay.
All right. So I've just stood up, gleaming smile on my hand. The adventure ends here, boys. I shall take a bit of this skin back up to the school. Tell them I was too.
Expelliarmus!
See, I think they would have been good. I mean, it worked out better for them. Maybe not for Lockhart, although it did give me my favorite chapter in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Christmas on the Closed Ward. But still, oh, you did come for the wrap up. All right, well. But anyway, yeah, I think they would have had time to disarm if they'd really been thinking about it.
Definitely.
And he doesn't seem so quick on the draw that they wouldn't have had time to thrust the wand long enough to cast the
They
spell.
would have.
But okay, well, that was our second look at Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Make sure, if you enjoyed this, to go back and hear the first part of it and check out all of our deep dives on these books. And we've got more to come this year. I don't know if we'll dedicate whole episodes to individual books going forward, because I feel like the later ones, we've covered a lot of the stuff, and they may not have as many on them. I know Prisoner of Azkaban, I think I got about 3 or 4 pages of notes, so we'll see. It might be 2 per episode.
Yeah.
Just depends on how it goes, but we're definitely going to go back through all of them. And
I
of
was
course,
gonna say, also with them being the later books, they tend to be a little more together.
but of course, we've got our Cartoon Network deep dive coming up, as well as several other things we've got planned, but we'll let you wait and see that. Just make sure you come back when the conversation does continue. Until then, Emma will continue to be Maddie.
Lexi.
Dylan.
You want to say your name?
Just
And this is Lexi concluded.
Bye.
go.
You got your dog?
Dog. The dog needs to say
Did
bye.
you come to say bye? He's like, no, I'll sit with you, Dada.
Can you say Johnny?
Go.
Can you say bye?
Bye.